facts on our side. Flat earth beats on, it's all pretend. But facts will be done. Get ready for a smackdown. Get ready for a smackdown. They'll lie while the earth spins around. Watch out for smackdown. They cling to ancient misconceptions. We've got truth in our possession. No room for doubt, no time to waste. It's time to put flat earth in its place. Here comes the smackdown.
Welcome everybody to Tuesday night. I'm your host MC Toon, and we will be watching and responding in real time to a debate between Will Duffy, who is the guy that organized the trip to Antarctica that completely demolished Flat Earth, left it kicking and screaming, caused the escape of quite a few Flat Earthers. I was on that trip in Antarctica. It was absolutely fantastic. And he's debating against Shawn Griffin. Shawn Griffin is a biblical literalist, which just basically means that he declares that everything that he has interpreted in the Bible is definitely true and nobody can question him. That's what it means. So whether you are a adherent to the Bible or not, the very specific version of the Bible that Shawn has chosen to be the interpretation that he thinks is the one and true interpretation. That is the question, of course, and it is a recurring theme amongst people who have holy books, that they declare that their interpretation is the one and true interpretation. And I think that's a problem. I think people need to have a bit more humility to say, well, this is what I think and it could be wrong. That's a little better way to go about it. All right. Somebody said it's Will Diffie. Why is it Will Diffie? That doesn't make any sense. Are you being rude? I would hope you're not being rude here, Stayer. Or maybe I misspelled. Let me look. Did I misspell it? I did misspell it. Okay. I'm like, wait, what are you going with that? Fixed. Is Basil Problem says, is Duffy a biblical literalist? He probably would be an appropriate way to describe it. He does think the earth is young. As does Shawn, and as does the host of the debate. This is over on the channel Standing for Truth. I think I linked it in the description, but if you just search for Standing for Truth, you'll find it there. It looks like they've not yet started. I think that's, yeah. All right. Anyway, now you may wonder who won top left. And if you haven't seen that, it has been determined. The top left winner for 2025 is Fkatzoid, even though he had an opportunity to get voted down for saying the absolutely horrible, disgusting, terrible things that he said. The masses have spoken, and he beat Dearth by more than 1,000 votes. So I reversed my vote on him. I backed him, and I reversed my vote. I encourage people to reverse it, but the people spoke. So there it is. Anyway, so what will be happening? So the debate format is it's a debate between these two people. They haven't started yet. The video is supposed to be live. There's what it looks like right now. It's not live. So Andreas Held says, how about you debating Fkatzoid on biblical cosmology? Here's the debate. It is your opinion. That's it. That's biblical cosmology. You have an opinion. But when it comes to the shape of the earth, we can just go test it. We don't need to try and find in a holy book things to support your position or not for something in physical reality. Just go look. Go measure it. That's all you need to do. And then you can figure out, well, everybody that had this opinion is wrong, and everybody that had this opinion was right. Easy. Jeebus says, you will always be the winner in my heart. Do you mean, not top left? You don't mean top left. You mean just winner in general, right? Bruce Wolford says that's exactly what it would be in opinion. And yeah, I don't find it, I find zero benefit. I have zero interest in debating biblical cosmology, that topic at all, because the thing is, if your holy book absolutely, definitively, unquestioningly does make a specific claim about something in physical reality that is not true, that means your holy book is not correct. It doesn't change reality. Reality still is reality. And there's plenty of claims in all sorts of holy books that are not correct. So all right. I don't know. Debaters are almost good to go, says Standing for Truth. So there we go. Recount for hanging chads, says Ego some. Oh, it's Greek. Some Seuss. Is that, I don't know. What evidence do you have for red bats? Well, I suppose there is evidence for red bats in that if you had a bat and some red spray paint, you could, before your Little League game, spray it red, and then maybe it'll help you hit the ball better. I don't know. Huge arse. Or your interpretation of the Holy Book is incorrect. Well, that was the thing. See, I qualified it with if your Holy Book is written in a way where there's no interpretation about it, and everybody is in agreement, and it's super unambiguous, then it it doesn't leave any interpretation open. And that's the thing, I think, with Bible literalists. They think that their particular flavor of it is the correct one, because the common thing is it's inerrant. They say the Bible is inerrant, but the problem is there's no shortage of different versions of interpretations of this inerrant thing. So which is the correct inerrant interpretation? Unknown. You can't determine that, because there's every single person has a different view of it. So I think it's a silly question. All right. That was a month. All right. So I'm just making sure I'm going to get this here, not that. So one thing that, where is it? I need my control panel here, for this. I'm in the wrong window completely. So if you do want to interact over on the chat over there, you can find it there. Be nice, right? You're the guest, and if you're like, hey, MC Toon sent me, I want them to say, cool, that's a nice person. All right. They still haven't started yet, though. What time is it? It's 10 after. Or you could just get a t-shirt with a red bat on. I got it. Oh, I totally spaced it. And I intentionally changed out of this because I was wearing a tuxedo shirt for the previous live stream. And I'm like, oh, it's so stuffy. They're wearing this tuxedo. So I had to change out of it. And I'll put it on the shelf until the next time I need to wear something super extra formal. Then I'll pull that guy out and wear it again. While we're waiting, Gary IOW says, have some money to sort your attire out, you heathen. That was before I even went live. Oh my goodness, it's requiring me to sign in to confirm I'm not a bot. See that? What in the world? Come on, YouTube. All right. Well, I'll switch it to this one here, I guess. That's fine. Their timer, they're running a countdown right now, so YouTube has gotten more aggressive on making you sign in to stuff. So, all right, there it is. And is there any audio? Let's hear. Yeah, a little bit of audio. We don't need to hear that. We do need to hear. Oh yeah, Basil Problem said, is Duffy a biblical literalist? Jack Fetter says, is FDFE kidding with the start of top left video pick? I don't know what you're talking about. So he accidentally started streaming half an hour early. That's all I know. I didn't watch it. I got a couple of people message me. I'm like, oh look. So I popped in. Craig and I are each managers on each other's channels. So I'm like, I could go. He had already sent me the Zoom link. I'm like, I could go in and like stop the stream. I could do that. But then he came to his computer and we started talking, and I'm like, all right, well, he can do what he wants. Oh, pick as in nose, says Jack Fetter. Oh, yes, I heard. Well, you know, you got to keep them nostrils clean, people. Basil Problem says, do you think believing the Earth's age is less than 10,000 years is fundamentally different than thinking the Earth is flat? I think it's generally very similar. The difference is you can go right today and test the shape of the Earth. You can go look at it yourself. You cannot do that with the age of the Earth. You don't get into a TARDIS and go look. That's the problem. So that I see as a difference, but no, I don't see it as any difference. I think that what they're doing is they're starting with a conclusion and working the wrong direction. And declaring that their interpretation of the Bible is the only correct one.
All right. Welcome everybody to Standing for Truth. My name is Donnie Bedinsky, and I am your host and moderator for tonight's highly anticipated great shape of the Earth debate between Will Duffy from The Final Experiment and Shawn Griffin from Kingdom in Context. I am thrilled to have Will and Shawn for this exciting debate because I know they've both spent considerable time studying this topic. That means we are going to get a comprehensive, thought-provoking, and professional exchange on tonight's subject matter. And the specific resolution for tonight's great shape of the Earth debate is this: which model of the shape of the Earth best accounts for the evidence? Will and Shawn are no strangers to debates, nor are they a stranger to the Standing for Truth debate platform. And so I appreciate the both of them being willing to be seen with me in public for a few hours here. And so, Will, Shawn, let's get acquainted, gentlemen, and break the ice a little bit before we get
Open up your tabs, people.
Will Duffy, let's start with you. It's great to have you. I appreciate the time you've offered for tonight's event. And tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so glad to be here. Thanks for hosting. Big fan of your channel. I'm Will Duffy. I created The Final Experiment. And if you're not familiar with it, you will be after tonight. I'm coming to you guys from Colorado and really looking forward to this.
Awesome. Appreciate that, Will. For those in the audience that enjoy what they're hearing from Will Duffy here, do check the description box where I have a link to his YouTube channel where you can go over there and subscribe. Shawn Griffin from Kingdom in Context, it's great to have you as well. I appreciate the time that you've offered for tonight's debate. A lot of people really looking forward to this one, and that includes myself. And Shawn, tell us, how are you doing tonight? And also tell us a little bit about your channel, Kingdom in Context.
Thanks again for having me, Donnie. I'm doing well. Thanks, Will, for doing this. And yeah, this is a fun topic. I'm excited to talk about this one. I've been studying biblical cosmology for 10 years, since 2015. And I feel like there's just ample evidence, both.
Everybody wants to be the OG Flurf. Yeah, bragging to be dumbest earliest.
In the physical reality we see, as well as in the Word of God. So I'm excited to talk about this topic. It is something we discuss on our channel, Kingdom in Context. We mainly try to focus on the gospel of the kingdom that Christ and all the prophets preached, but the creation and the design of the creation is a part of that message. So it matters to the details, and I'm excited to flesh those out tonight as a part of this debate and engage with Will and his points as well.
Very good. Thank you very much, Shawn Griffin. To those in the audience who like what they're hearing from Shawn, I also have his channel linked in the description box, where you can go check that out and see more from him. Will and Shawn, thank you for helping us to get acquainted and get to know you guys a little bit before our comprehensive debate tonight. Again, to anybody just joining us, as we are doing this live and people are still making their way in for this epic exchange, the debate resolution for tonight is: which model of the shape of the earth best accounts for the evidence? And here's our format. Why I say tonight is going to be comprehensive is because we have 30 minutes each for opening statements. For those who might remember, last month we had a live debate negotiations event just to hash out all the important details. And so for the 30-minute opening statements, both debaters will bring 6 main arguments or points to engage. Then we'll jump into a round of uninterrupted rebuttals. Uninterrupted rebuttals will be 10 minutes each. Those will be meant to respond to the 6 major arguments or pieces of evidence that are brought up during the opening statements. Then we jump into a discussion. Now, the discussion, rather than a strict cross-examination, this is going to be more free-flowing and organic, where Shawn and Will can have a dialogue or a conversation on.
So they each get 30 minutes to presentation. What for 6 topics? So what can Shawn present for 30 minutes for evidence for flat Earth? There is no evidence for flat Earth. So what? I don't know what he's going to spend 30 minutes on as evidence for flat Earth. Certainly, he's probably going to talk about the Bible, but that's the claim. It's just a claim, right? That doesn't change the shit. He's gonna be trying to instruct everybody else on his way to interpret the Bible. It's nonsense.
On the issues at hand. Then this is where we get you guys in the audience involved. We'll have a roughly 25 to 30-minute audience Q&A, depending on how many questions come in.
Catching up
Please
at 1.5.
Keep the questions respectful. No personal attacks. Feel free to send in challenges. Perhaps you hear something Will says or Shawn says and you disagree, you object to what they're saying. Again, send in an objection, make sure there's a question mark at the end of it, but keep it respectful, no personal attacks there. And what we'll do in light of tonight's large live chat is we'll bump super chats to the top for those who want to guarantee or ensure that their questions are engaged. And that's it for formats. Well, gentlemen, let's get into the fun. I am looking forward to this. Will Duffy is going to be kicking us off in terms of opening statements. Again, we have 30 minutes. Will, please just let me know when you're ready to go. I can also put your slides up or your presentation up whenever you're good with that as well.
Yeah, why don't you get it set up and then we can start.
Okay, so I've got that up on the screen and I can start the timer as soon as you're ready to start your presentation.
Okay, I'm ready.
Okay, go ahead.
Flat Earth is officially finished. I created the final experiment, TFE, to once and for all settle this debate over the shape of the Earth. I came up with TFE in November of 2023 after hearing so many flat earthers say there was no 24-hour sun in Antarctica, and if there was a 24-hour sun, that would prove the globe and be impossible on a flat Earth. Shortly thereafter, I was invited to watch a debate between 2 pastors over the shape of the Earth. The debate was between Greg Locke and Dean Odell and took place on December 2nd, 2023 near Nashville, Tennessee. I decided to attend this debate in person as I had already begun creating the final experiment in order to settle this debate for good. To my complete shock, the flat earth pastor, Dean Odell, said from the stage near the beginning of the debate that this whole disagreement could be settled by going to Antarctica and seeing if there was a 24-hour sun or not.
this would be easy to prove, but they hide this from us too. All we'd have to prove is go to Antarctica. Let me and you go to Antarctica, spend a week there in the summer, and let's see if the sun does a 360-degree circle all the way around us. If so, it's a ball.
This was my confirmation that my idea for TFE was indeed final, hearing from yet another flat earther himself that going to Antarctica and seeing if there was a 24-hour sun would end this debate. The final experiment was just that, final in every way. There is no flat earth map or model that can account for the observations and experiments we conducted on our trip to Antarctica and to the tip of South America. As it turned out, the 24-hour sun was just the tip of the iceberg, pun intended. So many other observations and experiments confirmed the globe, and these are all impossible on a flat earth. If no flat earther, including my opponent Shawn, can provide a working map or model that can account for all of these, then the debate is over. Full stop. As we go through these observations one by one and the results of our experiments, I want you to keep something very important in mind. Every single flat earth claim was wrong. Every single flat earth prediction was demonstrably false. Every single one. This is not some crazy coincidence. It's because we do not live on a flat earth. Because we live on a globe, every single time a flat earther makes a prediction or claim that contradicts the globe, it will fail. I don't have time to cover all of the demonstrably false claims from flat earthers prior to TFE, but I will highlight some of the bigger ones now. First, flat earthers said for years that you could not go to Antarctica.
Okay. Now you have some problems. First off, we're not even allowed to go there because of the longest standing treaty in mankind, the Antarctic Treaty. We're not allowed below the 60th. I think it's the 60th, might be the 66th parallel south, but you're not allowed to go there.
They would also say things like you can only go to the coast of Antarctica or you could only go to the Antarctic Peninsula. All of this was false. When I created the final experiment and started researching how to get to Antarctica and where you could go, I was overwhelmed by how many tour companies take people to Antarctica every year. I had to make a spreadsheet to try and keep track of it all. Next, flat earthers said there was not a 24-hour sun in Antarctica.
There is, in fact, never 24-hour sunlight anywhere in Antarctica, because even when the sun reaches its outermost circuit over the Tropic of Capricorn, the entirety of the Antarctic circumference cannot be reached by its light at any one time, and so it will still set every day.
Prior to TFE, most flat earthers subscribed to Gleason's map of the world with a circling sun above it. This would make a 24-hour sun in Antarctica impossible. In fact, in the lower right corner of Gleason's map, it says there is no sunlight at all in Antarctica beyond 80 degrees south. My opponent, Shawn, also doubled down on there not being a 24-hour sun in Antarctica. First, last June, Shawn had me on his channel to discuss TFE. Now, we need to take a quick tangent here. Notice in the description, Shawn says I am joining him to discuss my public challenge to biblical cosmology. This is manipulative and disingenuous. Flat earthers, including my opponent, use this term biblical cosmology as if it's synonymous with a flat earth. Nothing could be further from the truth. I hold to biblical cosmology, as does Donnie, who is hosting this debate, but we have disagreements with Shawn's position on biblical cosmology. People disagree with each other. That's a fact of life. And in the world of theology and biblical matters, it's no different. Disagreements and different interpretations abound. If someone calls their own personal view biblical theology, despite the fact that many people disagree, you can see how disingenuous that is. And even worse, imagine inviting someone for a discussion specifically on theological disagreements and putting in the description ahead of time.
Okay, so I just sent a super chat over to their channel there. Fkatzoid called Lisbeth the village bicycle and said she was a sexual partner for satanic rituals for Will and TFE. Shawn denounced Fkatzoid in panel.
That they are coming to discuss their public challenge to biblical theology. People disagree on theology. People disagree on cosmology, and they all believe that their position is biblical. So anytime during this discussion, when Shawn uses the term biblical cosmology, remember that he has redefined that term as synonymous with a flat earth, but it's not. All the varying views on cosmology among those who believe the Bible is true can all be described as biblical cosmological views. Going back to Shawn's position that there was not a 24-hour...
Yeah, Uncle Charlie, the Bible isn't where you go for cosmology. Think about the audience. They didn't understand these topics. This wasn't things that they cared about. This wasn't anything that mattered to them. Why would that be something of discussion? It was nothing at all related to it wasn't what they dealt with. And same with that's why I'm not impressed with age of the universe stuff coming out of there either, because it wasn't something that they cared about or understood. So, and it says, I'm not very nice to flurfers. Gaiman Blomp says, Flat Earth ate all my weeds. Pat in the chat says, I'm not sure which victory I'm more in awe of. Rory Masters win completing the Grand Slam or Fkatzoid's top left win. Both are so well deserved. Icy Spin says, Will debating Flat Earth is a treat he crushes. He does. And then Basil Problem, this last one, says, your argument about the Flat Earth is observable and why young Earth creation is disingenuous. Is speculation observable? What about radiograph dating? What about cosmic microwave background? I'll talk about that later. I'll go into that.
Our sun in Antarctica. A few days after having me on his channel, Shawn posted this video to his channel. You'll notice it's titled Multiple Testimonies Against 24-Hour Southern Summer Sun in Antarctica, and he was furthering his case that there is not a 24-hour sun. And then a few days later, Shawn had MC Toon on his channel, and both TFE and the 24-hour sun were, of course, brought up. And Shawn told MC Toon that the globe side has no video evidence of a 24-hour circling sun in Antarctica.
I knew he was going to do this.
So you have quote unquote testimony with no video evidence. We have testimony.
Oh, I have video evidence.
No, you don't. You've got edited film. You do not have a 24-hour video evidence of the Antarctic summer sun circling above someone's head for 24 hours. The body of the sun.
Now, this was completely false. And so MC Toon brought up a video of the 24-hour sun in Antarctica.
He clipped it where I said, I'm going to make a liar out of you.
Antarctica. And Shawn argued against it with some incredibly weak arguments, as you will see here.
Okay. So who's Robert Schwartz?
Robert Schwartz. Schwartz spent time at the South Pole. This is
How do you know Robert Schwartz?
How do you know the guys in the video that you did? You don't know them either. So
no, I don't.
We're
But
at the same
they actually have a timestamp. They have dates. They have coordinates. You have a random video that's moving in circles where I can already see cuts in the clouds because it's moving at high speed. So I'm just saying to you,
standard flat Earth denial.
How do you know Robert Schwartz?
This is 5 days.
Watch it go.
Yep. This destroys flat Earth. You asked why hasn't it been blasted around? I don't know why.
Here's the first critical question.
It's been there for 7 years, Sean.
Michael, here's the first critical question. Can you slow down for a minute?
It contradicts your idiot idea of flat Earth and your belief that the Earth is flat and that the.
Okay, I'm just gonna have to mute you since you can't control yourself. I'm looking at this video that you put up here. Okay. Where you said it's 5 days uninterrupted. Shake your head, yes or no. Where's the guy coming out to change the battery? What kind of battery can go for 5 days uninterrupted? 120 hours? Can you tell me where the video is where he's coming out to change this battery out of this camera? Do you know that the batteries lose 90% of their lifespan in sub-zero Antarctic weather? So all you got is a simple video. You don't know who Robert
Ready
Schwartz
for the
is.
answers? Are you going to pretend to let me answer now?
No, I'm asking you genuine questions. Can you control yourself and talk normal now?
Yeah, it's a time lapse. You don't know how time lapses work?
So it's not a complete video.
It's a series of photographs, Sean. That's what video
It's not a complete video.
Sean, a video.
Oh, all right,
is a
brother.
series of photographs.
This is very disappointing.
Not knowing the person who filmed the 24-hour sun is not a valid argument against the evidence. Saying you can't see the person changing the battery is not a valid argument against the evidence, especially when the person filming would be careful to not step in front of the camera. And saying it is a time lapse and not a complete video is not a valid argument against the evidence either.
It was plugged into a
And then in November, just a month before we went to Antarctica, Shawn was doing a live stream and someone asked him what his confidence level was that there was not a 24-hour sun. Hear his answer.
Will is prepared. Hunter's asking what's my confidence level of a 24-hour sun. And it depends on if they're actually taking them to the spot they claim they're taking them to. If they are, and then it's definitely not going to be a 24-hour sun. If they're actually taking them to that specific spot, then you would not have, because the descriptions of Enoch and the creation model did not have a 24-hour sun.
Turns out Enoch's wrong.
So Shawn joined the rest of the Flat Earth community in communicating a very strong confidence that there would not be a 24-hour sun in Antarctica. Now, to be fair to Shawn, he did seem to change his mind after our trip and after we live streamed the midnight sun and also video recorded the 24-hour sun. He seems to have latched on to Joe Hanvey's model, which Joe and Shawn and others think reconciles a 24-hour sun in Antarctica with a flat Earth. It doesn't, and I'm actually excited for Shawn to bring up Joe Hanvey's model because it's very easy to refute. But we will get to that later in the debate. Some people argue that a single data point, such as the existence of a 24-hour sun in the south in Antarctica, is not enough to falsify flat Earth and prove the globe. They argue that you need a preponderance of evidence to show which side is actually correct. Fortunately, TFE ended up being about much more than just the 24-hour sun. As you are about to see, every globe prediction was correct and every flat Earth claim was wrong. Shortly before we went to Antarctica, I released this video on the TFE channel. The one thing everyone completely forgot about. This video was about the moon. Leading up to our trip, everyone was talking about the sun, but on the globe, there is not just a 24-hour sun in Antarctica, there is also a 24-hour moon. And flat earthers had made it clear that they also denied the existence of the 24-hour moon.
Right? You know, there's a 24-hour moon in the north, but not a 24-hour moon in the south.
And my opponent also asked me about the 24-hour moon during our interview last June.
And Will is just trashing him here.
Why no flat earther has put forth a model where a 24-hour sun would work in Antarctica is because there isn't one.
Why are we just talking about the sun? What about the moon? Wouldn't there be a 24-hour moon also?
Oh, yeah.
Yes, Shawn, there is also a 24-hour moon.
Oh, Will.
Multiple people have filmed the 24-hour moon in Antarctica.
Oh, man.
And we actually released the first ever video of a 24-hour moon taken in the winter in Antarctica, courtesy of Anthony Powell, who has spent many years in Antarctica. Up next is sunrise and sunset directions. Our journey to Antarctica took us through South America, specifically a town called Punta Arenas, which is at the very southern tip of Chile. What's significant...
Beast Militia, have I talked to Shawn after you guys debated at all? I've emailed him, but calling him out for lying over and over and over, and he won't address it.
About this is that we were south of the Tropic of Capricorn. According to flat earthers, the sun should always be to the north of you if you are south of the Tropic of Capricorn. And one flat earther even told me before our trip that we would know if the earth was a globe or flat based on what the sun did while we were at the southern tip of Chile.
When you're in that place, regardless of whether you're on a globe.
So you're not seeing it, but Shawn is in the live chat there crying. It's character assassination, baby. Poor baby Shawn.
or whether you're on a flat, you are going to be south of the Tropic of Capricorn. You're going to be south of the furthest zenith position that the sun makes. So you are going to have to look north to see the sun. And it would be real simple that as it traverses to the west, if it arcs in a west by northwesterly direction at all, you're not on a globe. If it arcs around, if it starts to track, you don't even have to see it for 24 hours. All you have to do is watch which way it tracks. If it goes west by northwest, you're going to be on, you're on a flat earth. If it's going past you in a west by southwest direction, in other words, angling off to this way, arcing around you, then you're definitely on a globe.
When we got to Punta Arenas, all eyes were on the sun. Both sides were curious. Would it set in a southerly direction as the globe predicted, or would it set in a northerly direction as a flat earth would require? And once again, the globe side was correct. The sun set from right to left toward the south. And the really cool thing was that you could see the movement of the sun through a very faint twilight throughout the night to the south until it rose again, still in a southerly direction. Up next is the South Celestial Pole. Flat earthers have denied a South Celestial Pole for years, as they believe the stars in the night sky all rotate around Polaris, the North Star.
In the southern outer hemisphere, people say that the stars rotate in the opposite direction. They make circles in the opposite direction, and that can only happen
he has on
a ball Earth.
What's that hat?
I have yet to see any real proof of this.
On a globe, you would have both a north and south celestial pole. And most importantly, on a globe, the stars in the south would rotate in the opposite direction that they do in the north and around a different point in the sky. And again, while at the southern tip of Chile.
All right, you can see the chat here. You can see Shawn. It's KIC is Shawn, so you can hear what he cries. I can fix the sound. Okay, sorry.
Like to claim that since a geographic South Pole does not exist, that people who go to the South Pole are just dropped off at some random spot in Antarctica. Well, this is simply not true. People visit the South Pole for many reasons, but one of the main ones is to visit the Amundsen-Scott South Pole Station. This is an over 80,000 square foot building that has as many as 150 people working in it at a time. So one of the first questions I like to ask flat earthers who deny the geographic South Pole is this: where is the Amundsen-Scott station? Please show me on a flat earth map where this gigantic station is located. And flat earthers historically have failed to respond to this simple
How do
question.
you get there? You just
I
go
will be
there.
asking Shawn this question during our discussion. And I would like to suggest that if flat earthers do not know where the Amundsen-Scott South Pole Station is, they need to rethink their stance on flat earth. Even if you have not been to the Eiffel Tower, it's easy to show where it is on a map. And if you wanted to travel there, it would be relatively easy for anyone to get there. The South Pole is no different. Anyone, and I mean anyone, this includes children, can show you on a globe where the South Pole is. And if people want to visit the South Pole, you can. But if we live on a flat earth, and no one can show where the Amundsen-Scott South Pole Station is on a flat earth, then how is it that anyone can travel there? The answer is simple. We know where it is only on the globe because we live on a globe. And I predict no one, including my opponent, will be able to show where this is on a flat earth map because we don't live on a flat earth. So once again, the globe was correct. There is a geographic South Pole. That brings us to my final point in this discussion, and that is Southern Hemisphere flights. Flat earthers denied for years that nonstop Southern Hemisphere flights were real.
Some globe debaters will acknowledge this fact, but rebut with the claim that non-stop Sydney to Santiago flights follow a great circle route over the Pacific.
Shawn just said, gird your loins. It's coming. Oh my gosh. Gird your loins, people.
Remaining in the southern hemisphere the entire time, therefore increasing the necessary
Gird
flight
your
distance,
loins.
speed, and duration. With regards to this claim, firstly, it is yet to be proven that these flights even exist, since no unedited video footage exists online, and every time flat earthers have attempted to book the non-stop flight, it fails to go through, gets canceled and refunded days before departure, or changes to a non-direct flight.
A nonstop Southern Hemisphere flight is an airplane flight that both departs and lands in the Southern Hemisphere without crossing the equator. The reason flat earthers denied these flights existed is because on a flat earth, the South gets bigger and bigger the further you go past the equator. And so these flights would be physically impossible in the South on a flat earth by the fact that the South is just too big for a flight to cover these distances in a relatively short amount of time and without refueling. Two very specific flight routes are tied to TFE, and they once again confirm the globe and falsify flat Earth. The first is the nonstop flight between Santiago, Chile, and Sydney, Australia. Critical Think, a YouTuber who joined us for the final experiment, lives in Australia and took this nonstop flight both on his way to Antarctica and on his way home after Antarctica. This flight is impossible on a flat Earth. I'm looking forward to hearing Shawn's explanation of this flight on a flat Earth map, because there is not a plane in existence that could fly the distance required on a flat Earth map, and that can fly fast enough to make such a distance in such a relatively short amount of time.
So Shawn has been, until now, an AE map guy. He talked about it. And now he's going to have to run from it. And so what's he going to say? It's going to be the same excuses. You can't look at the sky to know the ground. He's going to talk about, we didn't have any measurements of the ground, when the flight literally is a result of the curvature of the Earth. So he's going to run away from the flight thing and probably just say, I never made that claim, which doesn't fix it. You still need to explain it. He won't.
The next flight route is flights to and from the South Pole. Flights that originate in South America, South Africa, and New Zealand fly to Antarctica multiple times per year, and then after switching aircraft, take people to the South Pole on ski planes. A ski plane lands on skis as opposed to wheels, as there is no runway at the South Pole. Here is a quick visual. Okay, that's not going to play, but that's fine. These flights originate in 3 different continents, and then the ski planes all meet up after very short flights at the South Pole. This is once again physically impossible on a flat Earth and is exactly what would happen on a globe. In closing, I would like to read a verse from the Gospel of John. Jesus says this in chapter 3, verse 12. If I have told you earthly things and you do not believe, how will you believe if I tell you heavenly things? This reminds me so much of this conversation and debate. Shawn has now been told and shown earthly things, facts about our present reality and the globe we live on. If he cannot accept this, then that is only a hindrance to a proper understanding of Scripture and heavenly things. I predict that Shawn will try to avoid discussing the observations and experiments we did as part of TFE and instead focus on what the Bible says. But if someone cannot understand our present world, the one we live in and the one we can go measure and test and explore, then their opinion on what the Bible says is not going to be that respectable, at least not to me.
Dude, the holy
if you
hand grenade,
cannot understand earthly things, how are you going to understand spiritual things? The Message Bible translates John 3:12 very bluntly. If I tell you things that are plain as the hand before your face, and you don't believe me, what use is there in telling you of things you can't see, the things of God? And this is where we are at with this conversation. Shawn may try to wiggle out of these clear facts about our world by saying he does not have a flat earth map or a working flat earth model. But in the 21st century, that is no longer a valid excuse. There is no shortage of maps today, and there are 100,000 daily commercial flights available to the public, all of which make perfect sense on the globe. And there are no flat earth cartographers or flat earth pilots. Shawn, I'm going to take a pretty firm stance on this. If you are unable to produce a working flat earth map that can account for these 6 things I just went through, then this debate is simply over. I will still engage with you on a biblical conversation and show you that the Hebrew word rakia does not mean a hemispherical dome. But please realize that without a flat earth map, you've lost this debate. We have way too many data points, and all of these data points coexist simultaneously. And therefore, any map must be able to account for all of them. And the globe does.
Shawn's calling it special pleading.
Appeal to a lack of accurate maps or a lack of accurate data hundreds of years ago, but you can't do that in 2025. So, Shawn, the ball is in your court. No pun intended.
Will, thank you very much for that 30-minute opening statement and presentation on your 6 major points and arguments. I will now put you backstage and bring in Shawn Griffin. Before Shawn presents, I will remind everybody in the audience that we are having an audience Q&A as soon as we're done with the discussion portion of tonight's great Shape of the Earth debate. I am all caught up on your questions. I appreciate all of the engagement and interaction in our lively live chat tonight. In light of all the questions and comments coming in, I have bumped the super chats to the top for those who want to guarantee that their questions are answered and engaged. And lastly, a reminder to anybody just joining us, we want your questions and comments to be respectful and also professional, as our debaters tonight, Shawn Griffin and Will Duffy, have been generous and gracious with their time, not only for the debate itself, but for the prep that goes into these kinds of debates to give us a thought-provoking one. So again, please keep it cordial, and nothing wrong with attacking arguments, but just make sure it's the arguments that are being attacked and not the persons, not the debaters themselves. Okay, Shawn Griffin, I am going to reset the timer, and this is going to be our second 30-minute opening statement. Did you want me to get your slides up?
They're in the studio already.
Okay. All right, here we go. You just let me know when you're good to go. I'll start the timer and you have 30 minutes.
I'm good to go.
Okay, floor is yours.
Thanks again, Donnie, for doing this. I think this is an important discussion because we're going to validate God's word as true. We trust in the Bible. We don't trust in man's claims when they contradict the Bible. So I'm going to offer to my debate opponent tonight.
When they contradict his very personal interpretation of the Bible. Remember, listen to what he says here. He is going to present his personal interpretation of the Bible as the only acceptable version of it, and that everybody else is wrong. He must have a special note from God.
Right? That if he cannot account for the Big Bang heliocentric cosmological model's claims, all of them claims, then all of the observations that he attributes to that model are incorrect. They're wrong. All of his observations are wrong. Every single one of them.
Not how it works.
Let me repeat his debate fallacy again. If he cannot account for all of the Big Bang's cosmological heliocentric claims, including dark energy, dark matter, quarks that apparently appear and disappear in and out of existence, then all of the other claims that he has according to that model are also wrong.
What an idiot.
Every single word that comes out of his mouth is wrong. Every single thought, his whole reasoning, his whole logical, substantial, coherent framework of his entire life and how he reads the Bible, how he does his taxes, how he actually goes to the bank. Every single thing that he does and reasons in his life must be incorrect if he doesn't have all the answers for a model which admits it has many answers missing. So since we're fully engaged in debate fallacies tonight, I thought I'd just go ahead and get that out of the way. And now let's actually look at some substantial evidence for a biblical cosmological model, which is a circle of earth enclosed by a firmament, as our heavenly creator tells us, the one who's offering us eternal salvation to live in his house with him in the future at the second coming. So let's jump right into God's testimony in scripture is one of the things we're going to discuss tonight, as well as the physics that we experience requires a firmament. The luminaries and winds inside the firmament, declassified government documents that prove a flat, non-rotating, stationary Earth, stars and their missing movements, as well as missing curvature. So if I were to look at my hand from a biological view, an anatomical medical view, I would see that it is a wonderful, absolutely wonderfully created and intelligently designed piece of artwork that the Father has made. With all of its muscles and sinews and tendons and small bones, everything works together perfectly. I would never suggest that that's a random causation. I would never suggest that it just randomly came to be and somehow mutated into greater complexity, as opposed to what truly mutation is, which is losing information. And so therefore, I then would easily decide, okay, if someone could mimic this type of model, that must be intelligently designed, just like we see people trying to make robotic hands. But the Big Bang is different. The Big Bang, the heliocentric model, depends on Big Bang cosmology. So Will's claims tonight of a 24-hour sun, the things he thinks that his final experiment proved, depend, all of it, you get all of it is packaged into his claims.
Wow.
The entire model is packaged in.
And you can see the point here. And this is why I find it very, very nice to have young earthers in this specific realm, because this particular thing he's trying to claim right now is very common amongst flat earthers. They try to tie all these things together as if it's not allowed to have an opinion about the shape of the earth that differs from his opinion, because that requires that all these other things be tied together. But no, there's many young earth creationists that say the earth is a globe. Right? He's just some fringe out lunatic out on the side there making this claim, trying to tie these together. So while I don't agree with young earth, I see the value in it. I hope you do too. Like it shows that they're not tied together, and he's making a ridiculous claim to try to tie them together.
If I'm going to be spoken for by random other people that are not me, and he's not going to address my beliefs in biblical cosmology, I'm going to easily just pack his whole argument into the Big Bang cosmological claims, which are everything exploded out of nothing. There's a vast misrepresentation between the expansion rate versus the actual strength of so-called gravity to 120 decimal places. It's according to astrophysicists and quantum physicists, it is the greatest misappropriated calculation in all of science.
He has no clue what he's talking about.
They talk about it, they know it. Even PhD Harvard mathematicians like Eric Weinstein have tried to speak about it to his colleagues in the mathematical quantum gravitational study world, and they admit that there's huge problems with the entire model. This is why they invoke things like dark energy and dark matter in order for them to try to make up for what's lacking in the model, because the model doesn't make sense mathematically, and it doesn't make sense according to actually what they see when they try to map the universe itself through the cosmic microwave background radiation. This is why they have to invoke imaginary concepts like dark energy and dark matter, which have never been explained, never been observed, tested, or picked up on any instrumentation ever. Our brother Will tonight is appealing to a model that's never been proven. It's all hot air. It's all claims. But he forgot to tell you that. So let's go. Let's look at what the Father actually described as his firmament enclosed model. 7 firmaments. His house is on the top. The sun and moon are in the 3rd layer, to my best estimation. There's a layer above us that is contained between the first layer above us and the second layer.
There's the AE map.
The water that was split on day 2 by the firmament that was put over us.
Trying to distance himself from the AE map.
The flat, stationary, non-rotating, immovable Earth. Here's some wonderful depictions brothers and sisters have made as we study biblical cosmology, and we try to look at all the evidence that we see in nature as well as in the scriptures, and to account for what the Word of God says where you live, not what NASA says. So let's look at God's testimony in actual scripture. Amos 9:6, he talks about a vaulted dome in the heavens. A vaulted dome in the heavens. This is something that is over the earth. Directly covers over this unambiguous language. Amos 9:6. Genesis 1:1-8. First 2 days of creation.
It's
and verse 6 talks about the
language.
firmament that was enclosing over us, which would have been the last firmament created. That actually separates waters from waters. The waters below that firmament receded, dry land appeared. The waters above that firmament are still there. They're the waters that actually came down in Genesis 7:11 through the firmament windows that actually poured in for the flood. So this is the description of the actual Bible.
He said unambiguous. I just want to show you this, right? Here, Amos 9:6, he said. Amos 9:6. He said unambiguous words. Well, here is the Geneva Bible, which predates the King James. He buildeth his spheres in the heaven, and hath laid the foundation of his globe of elements in the earth. He calleth the waters of the sea, and poureth them out upon the earth. The Lord is his name. And then, of course, again, in the Bishop's Bible, which is a close, it comes off of the Geneva Bible. So he's going to the English and declaring that his version is the only one that's allowed, when there's other versions that specifically call the earth a globe of Amos 9:6. There's a fail.
Genesis 7:11 through the firmament windows that actually poured in for the flood. So this is the description of the actual Bible. Now, if we look at lexicons, concordances, as the Hebrew Brown Driver Briggs explains what the actual expanse is, which is a word taken from the Greek word stereoma, and it says beaten out as if solid above a flat expanse, or as
He's demanding that his own interpretation be the only one that be allowed,
if compared to something that supports, like a base support. And we see an example of that in Ezekiel chapter 1, as the vision that Ezekiel's seeing is God on an actual platform, which is a firmament, that is called a firmament. We see the same thing in Exodus 24:10. We'll talk about that later. We also have the concept of the rakia, which is the vault of heaven or firmament regarded by the Hebrews as solid and supporting waters above it. So this is the actual definitions from the scholars, from the concordances and lexicons about this word expanse in the stereoma, which is the Greek, or the rakia. It's also translated as firmament, coming from the Hebrew. And it's a solid, vaulted structure, a visible arch of the sky, a firmament, a solid structure. It's not the sky, it's not the earth. And it's also, by its root definition, means something that is spread out as an expanse. That's why it's called an expanse. Not because it is an openness. This isn't science fiction's definition of an expanse. This is an expanse according to the definition of the word. Something that's a solid.
It's Sean's definition. Everybody can only use his.
Structure that has been spread out over something. Furthering definitions from scholars about the rakia, it describes it as serving as a dome-like structure that encompasses the earth. Encompasses, what does that mean? What is the definition of the word encompasses? Merriam-Webster tells us it's something that is to form a circle about, to enclose. Something that is to completely go around. The definition for something that encompasses. Here's some synonyms for the word encompass. We have the concept of circling. Just completely goes around. We have the concept of a compass.
Yeah, synonyms. It's not even playing dictionary words. It's the thesaurus game.
It's something that is circular, that encompasses the measurements within, according to the magnetics. Encircling something is an army encircles another army to cut them off and surround them. Also, just in the very concept of a daisy, the word daisy means the eye, basically, which is the yellow center of the flower, and it is enclosed or encircled by the actual petals around it.
What does that have to do with anything?
In the same way, another synonym for the word encompass is surround. So we have surround sounds that are put in speakers in people's homes for better audio quality. It's because it's put all around them. We know what these words mean. These words are specific to the firmament that encircles the waters of the earth. We also have the word gird. We see this in the book of Job, that he should gird up his loins when the Father starts speaking to him in Job 38. But the concept of how you actually would take your robe and tie it around yourself, tightening it around the lower part of your hips to gird yourself up so you can run or fight, is because it is now enclosing, encircling your waist in a tighter fashion. It's actually the definition of the Hebrew word in Amos 9:6 that we looked at, which is translated as vaulted dome, which is the word agudah, which is something that is a troop, something that is enclosed tightly as an encircling concept. In Proverbs 8:22-29, as you see in the highlighted yellow here, it says, when he established the heavens, that's the word in Genesis 1:8 that was given to the firmament. I was there when he inscribed a circle on the face of the deep, when he made firm the skies above, when the springs of the deep became fixed. So at the beginning of creation, wisdom was with the Father as he created and established the heavens as a circle on the face of the waters. It says, in other, the King James Bible uses the word compass. The New American Bible uses the word vault. And the Berean Standard Bible uses the word circle on the face of the deep. These are very specific language. Job 26:10, he inscribed a horizon in the face of the waters at the boundary between light and dark. The boundary between light and dark. He encompassed the waters.
Now look at this here. He's playing translation roulette here. He's cherry picking the different versions that say the things he wants it to say. Right? He's manipulating people by using different translations.
With bounds. Other translations, even the Syriac Peshitta, is circled the waters with bounds until the day and night come to an end. This is the firmament that has been circled, the waters that have been circled with bounds. It's the firmament that encloses the seas and the land of the earth. He placed a limit on the waters, the boundary between light and day. So this is a concept of the actual water, or the actual sun, creating light and dark, creating night and day, which are the bounds within the firmament of our earth. Job 22:12-14 says, of the Father in heaven above, that thick clouds veil him so he does not see us. He traverses the vault of heaven. More specific language. We know what a vault is. It's an arched concept, an arched solid substance. He traverses it. He walks across it. 2 Ezra chapter 6, 1-4. In the beginning, when the earth was made, before the borders of the world stood. The world has borders. It's the...
Wow, so Blood Always Finds This level is a flatty. You see him here? Right there. Right? He says... Kingdom in Context, Shawn, is a good example of the growth of satanic culture online. Now, I don't like Blood Always Finds His level. He's toxic, more toxic than Shawn by far. But it's the infighting is just insane.
The firmament. Further on, he says, wherever the heights of the air were lifted up, before the measurements of the firmament were named. These are all very specific language to what the Bible, through his prophets and priests, gave to us on the earth to know what he created and how special you are. You are not on a floating, random ball in space, an insignificant part of the universe, waiting for the sun to go supernova in 200,000 years. The God cares about you. He created you specifically below his feet in an enclosed, special environment. That's what his word tells us. 2 Peter 21, 3-6. In highlighted yellow, he goes on to say, oh, that you have made the earth. Hear me, that you have fixed the firmament by the word and have made firm the height of the heaven by the Spirit. I will never believe our brother Will Duffy in his very deceived mind to try to argue that the firmament ever means the crust of the earth. The descriptions of it is that it's firm, it's fixed, it's high above us. It's called heaven above us, as high as the heaven is above the earth. Scripture clearly defines the placement and location of the firmament above the earth. Job 37, 10-18,
doesn't exist,
very famous passage as far as spreading out the sky strong as a bronze mirror. We see in multiple translations, he goes into directly calling this the firmament, because even the scholars know what's being discussed when we see other translated words like sky, which has been spread out over the earth.
Look at that. He chose a different selection of translations in this example here instead of the same 4 examples, because it's saying he wants to manipulate the Bible to say what he wants it to say.
They know the context of the Bible has already been described as a vaulted solid substance and arched firmament over the earth. They know how to define this stuff. So we also see how the waters receded on the earth, dry land appeared. This is complete contradictory chronological events to the heliocentric Big Bang cosmology, which believes in an old earth, millions and billions of years, swamp gases arising out of a rock, and the moon breaking off from the earth millions of years ago. Swamp gases slowly create an atmosphere somehow, some way, ignoring the second law of thermodynamics. All of this stuff is
He should not speak of science topics. Oh, how embarrassing.
contradictory to what God has given us in Genesis chapter 1, 9-13 about the formation of the land and the sky, the earth. 14-19 describes the luminaries in the heavens as well, sun, moon, and stars to mark the days, the seasons, and the years.
Yeah, Shawn gets 30 minutes for 6 topics. This is topic number 1. Topic number 1. Number 2 is physics requires a firmament. He's not there yet, and he's spent, I don't know, he's made 15 minutes in maybe.
This is why they never changed. This is why he says he put them in the firmament of the heaven. We also see examples when we calculate the sun and we clock the sun with photography. We can see it makes an analemma pattern.
Oh my gosh, there's
as
an
it goes
map
to the
again.
6 gates every single year, as the scriptures describe to
Those
us in
aren't
the book
gates.
of Enoch, detailing its gate that
Those
it goes
are
through.
gates.
The Father has
Oh
through
my
his prophets.
gosh.
Jude.
That's so dumb. That's so dumb. There's no gates. Where's the gate begin and end? No, in Enoch, it's the gates are explaining what happens at nighttime. It goes through a portal at night, so you don't see it. That's how nighttime happens in Enoch.
Because Enoch a prophet gave us all the descriptions about his actual creation, so we can be rest assured that he took care of us when he made us. Ecclesiastes 1 talks about the sun going forth, rising, and returning to the spot where it started. It returns on its course in the same way we see in Psalm 19:16, the movement of the sun in the sky above. This is the Father's word about the luminaries that he put in the firmament above us. The sun runs its course from one end of the heaven to the other. It's in a circuit. That is something that has a starting place and goes back to the other starting place. It completes a circuit. The heliocentric Big Bang model says that the earth moves around in a circuit around the sun, which is completely opposite, contradictory lie.
So he keeps it. You see what he's doing here? Here's some more manipulation from Shawn. This is about the shape of the earth, and he keeps saying in the heliocentric Big Bang model. He knows his audience are primarily young earthers. And so he's trying to poison the well here by tying them together. This is pure manipulation.
To what the Father has told us in his word. We also, again, another model of how the sun moves in its circuit above the heaven over the earth.
AE map
Here's
again.
another quick example of a high altitude balloon. As we see the sun moving away, fulfilling Psalm 19.
Look at that. See how it's cropped? Do you see the top right and top left of that? That this video is cropped. He intentionally cropped it to remove some of it. But Will has the whole video.
6. Also, conveniently, there's no left and right curvature anywhere in this video at a high altitude. It's a wonderful, quick example. We go on to the moon. What does the moon say? It's called a lesser light that produces its own light. According to the scripture, it actually charges its light up over the course of 29 days. It is the waxing and waning concept that we're familiar with. And that there will be a day when the moon will not give its light, also referred to in a female pronoun as her, not only by the prophets, but also by the Messiah. The moon will not give her light on the day of the Lord. Why not? If it's a ball in space and the sun is just shining on the earth, shining on the moon, reflecting onto the earth, then it should always perpetually give its light. But on this day, the moon will not give its light.
Why? That doesn't make sense.
17 talks about how there is nothing in the moon except its light when it waxes and wanes. Well, so once it wanes and it departs and it just disperses all of its light and it goes dark for almost 2 full days and nobody can see it. This is something I asked Will Duffy on my channel last year, and he didn't even know that the moon cannot be seen for almost 2 full days in the sky. Not even when anyone that believes in the heliocentric model, no one's ever taken a picture of the moon while it goes dark. The book of Enoch directly talks to you and describes to you the hidden phase of the moon where no one can seize it before it begins the new moon phase. The observable reality of what we see is better described by our Father's word. So we're going to go on to a unique concept called the lunar wave, which was filmed more than a dozen times in the last 13 years.
Oh my goodness. Is he into physics yet or what?
Amateur astronomers filming the moon nonstop found what looked like a wave of water moving across the face of the moon. Now, I'm not saying it's moving across the actual moon itself. I'm asserting the biblical cosmological model is that between us and the moon, there's a layer of firmament with water still above us.
Oh my gosh.
As the Bible says.
And the moon's on the other side of it.
As you can see on screen right here, he's seeing water flow up as he's looking at the moon. He's literally watching a wave inside the firmament enclosed water above us between us and the moon. It's pretty amazing. Caught on camera. What we see in observable reality better matches the evidence of God's word. Excuse me. Exodus 24:10 describes the firmament itself as clear, almost like sapphire stone, and having the body of heaven in clearness. This is the King James version. So the body of heaven, Genesis 1:8 was described as the firmament, which is a solid arched substance above us. Well, now we're getting a furthering description of that it's clear. And it's a paved work like a sapphire stone. Lots of clear sapphire that you can see straight through it. It's very clear. So this is what Moses is seeing on Mount Sinai as he's celebrating Shavuot with the 70 elders, and they see the feet of God standing on this slab of firmament, this body of heaven in clearness. We see also the same concept in the literal standard version, describing it as the substance of heaven, as the substance of heaven. So it's not space vacuum. It's not just the atmosphere. It's the substance of heaven that is the feet of God were standing on in Exodus 24:10. Same thing for the Septuagint, comparing it to the firmament of heaven in its purity. So we have definitions for these terms and words. The Bible is not ambiguous. The Bible is not contradictory about this concept. What encloses us, it's
very ambiguous. If people can't agree on it, it's ambiguous.
Father said is the heavens above us. In the Dead Sea Scrolls, and as well as the 14th century Armenian Orthodox Bible, we see the Testament of Levi describes the 7 layers of heaven with great specificity and detail. Speaking about the 3rd layer of heaven, where the sun and moon are in the New Jerusalem, as 2 Corinthians 12 talks about the paradise of God, that's in the 3rd layer of heaven. It's much bigger and brighter than the 2 layers below it. So we see that there. This is why there's still there's water suspended above us between firmament layers, just as Genesis 7:11 says, Psalm 148:4 says, just as Revelation 21 verse 1 and 2 talks about, as the firmament is renewed, there's a new heaven, a new earth. As the New Jerusalem comes down, that suspended sea that the Testament of Levi describes in the 2nd layer above us, that suspended sea is moved aside. It's no more. Genesis 1:20-23 describes the open area where the birds fly as called the open firmament. Why? Because that's where the open air is. Makes a lot of perfect sense. I'm not trying to sound like Kent Hovind back in the day, but I'm hearing myself sound like this pretty well. Also, Genesis 2:1-3, the heavens and the earth were completed in all their vast array. The heavens and the earth were completed, not that they're continuing to expand and birth new stars in celestial star nurseries. They're completed. They're done. The 7 layers of the firmament, all the moving pieces, the sun, moon, and stars, the portals of the winds that come into the earth, everything is completed in 7 days, 6 days. 7th day is the day of rest. The firmament is the handiwork of God. Deuteronomy in the Septuagint 33:26, he's called the magnificent one of the firmament. Psalm 33 says that the Father Yahweh looks down upon the earth, upon mankind. We also see in Isaiah chapter 40 that the heavens are stretched out like a tent over the earth. That's a very specific description of shape. Psalm 104, the same thing. He stretches out the heavens like a tent and lays the beams of his chambers in the waters above. So if you're a Christian who believes that the Father has an actual temple in heaven, which is described in an abundance of scriptures, including Revelation 5 and Revelation 11, then you also he has chambers, and those chambers is a real structure with beams that are sitting in the waters above and the layers of heaven above. These are very literal descriptions. Again, Paul talks about the third heaven in 2 Corinthians chapter 12, where paradise is. This is important to the overall story of the Bible, the gospel of the kingdom, the denouement of the Bible itself, which is that God's tabernacle comes down to the earth and he tabernacles amongst mankind. It comes down through a firmament. It doesn't come from Beetlejuice. It doesn't come from Sigma Octari. It doesn't come from some distant, unseen parallel realm. This isn't Marvel. This is a very specific description of the Father's house is above us, the paradise of God, where the tree of life is, that the saints have access to in Revelation 22:14. If they do the commandments, they get access to the tree of life, which is in the city of God that comes down out of heaven, is in the third firmament above us right now, waiting to descend on the day of the Lord. How even with the New Jerusalem and all of its dimensions given in Revelation 21 actually fit on a globe? It doesn't. It would throw the earth off of its axis. It would throw it out of its orbit around the sun. It would mess up the moon's orbit around the earth. It would completely change everything.
Oh
the size and dimensions of the New Jerusalem does not in any way whatsoever being a 4-square city. So that means there's no curvature to the city. It's a 4-square city. Anyone that has any concept of engineering and architecture should understand that language. A 4-square city is not going to be allowed to wrap around the shape of the earth for approximately 1,400 miles in length.
Oh, no, we caught up.
This is something that would not fit on a ball earth. It does not. The dimensions and descriptions, is it coming down through the firmament? None of that language comports with the Big Bang cosmological heliocentric model.
There you go. More poisoning the well, more manipulation.
Isaiah 64, the prophet is pleading with the Father in heaven above to rend the heavens. That's a physical substance being torn open.
Kyle says, can you hurry this along, Shawn?
Is the word given to the firmaments. To rend the heavens so that he may come down. He wants justice to happen on the earth, and he knows that it's only going to happen when the Father comes down through the firmaments. Revelation 6:13-11, the stars of the firmament fell to the earth. The heaven, which is the firmament, was departed like a scroll being rolled up. Here's just a fun little representation. This music is not, this is music I own the copyright to, Donnie, so don't worry about that music. This is just a fun little representation of what everyone on the surface of the earth is going to see on the day of the Lord, when the heavens are open like a scroll and the stars are falling to the earth, as prophesied in Isaiah 34:4 and in Revelation 6:13-14.
There's
beautiful, beautiful concept. So the physics of what we experience and see requires a firmament. Donnie, can you tell me how much time I have left?
Yeah, sorry, Shawn, you just hit the 22-minute and 30-second mark.
8 minutes.
All right, we're going to go quickly. So the inverse square law of light. Light gets less in luminosity as it gets further away by orders of magnitude. So there's actual equations for this. It gets less in luminosity the further it gets from its source. There's an entire science behind this. It's called the inverse square law of light. So the moonlight that we see, the illumination of the surface of the moon should be 16,332 lux, which is a measurement of luminosity.
He's putting out numbers.
But instead, by the time it gets to Earth, we see this. So according to the inverse square law of light, by measuring what we observed on the Earth, it should be this on the moon, but it's not. This picture of this supposed Apollo 11 astronaut standing on the surface of this dull pale moon is not 16,000 lux. Let me give you an example. So the surface of the moon, 16,000 lux. By the time it reaches Earth, just a typical sunset or sunrise on Earth is 400 lux.
Here. He's just quoting somebody with zero understanding.
This is not the observable reality that we see. What NASA, what Big Bang cosmologists and promoters push to us as a true Apollo mission that truly happened in space, with the moon being in space and all that entire different model that's contrary to Scripture. That is not the observable reality that we saw, even in their own claims and pictures. This is just an average street light that emits 600 lux. The moon, the surface of the moon should be 2,700% brighter, but it's not.
Wait, I gotta see this.
The moon happened in space.
Wait, 163 watts per meter. Where do you think this came from? meters squared on the surface of the Earth. Okay, right, and it drops to roughly 1.15 times 10 to the negative 15 space 1.15 backslash times 10 to the power of negative 15 in curly brackets space. What is this craziness? That is not math.
With the
That
moon
is
being
not
in
right.
space and all that entire different model.
That is so wrong. That is so wrong.
That's contrary to scripture. That is not the observable reality that we saw
He
even in
has
their own
no
claims
idea.
and pictures. This is just an average street light that emits 600 lux. The moon, the surface of the moon should be 2,700% brighter, but it's not.
Why?
Here's
Where
original
did you
footage from
get
the
that?
actual, Air TV. It's not. In fact, it should be so bright that the picture should look like this. In fact, the reflection in his visor should also be extremely bright, washed out. So let's look at the luminaries and the winds and the firmament. This is actually, I'm addressing, contrary to my debate opponent's bravado and rhetoric, I'm addressing the TFE claims and experiments that they've
Not
done to
at
look
all.
So this is Joseph Hamby showing in a firmament enclosed model of Earth with a light circling on the top, but there's a counter rotation on the exterior edge of that firmament. This is just an optical
Oh my
effect that
gosh.
happens with light on a firmament. And I'm actually really happy that Will Duffy went to Antarctica and caused people to start experimenting in this vein to realize, wait a minute, this observation of a 24-hour sun at the exterior edges of the known world actually does show a counter-rotating 24-hour sun. That's amazing. That's amazing. Thank you, Will Duffy, for bringing this up so that people started experimenting better and better with this to show it can be absolutely modeled inside of a firmament.
So the camera is outside the dome. You're looking at, Hanvey is lying by showing that the far side of the dome has it circling on it. If you were inside the dome, you wouldn't see it doing that. It's just a lie.
Closed model of Earth, as basic as it may be. And as you see, he's scrolling the camera around different points around the circumference of the hemispheric dome to show that the optical effect is visible from anywhere on the dome. And of course, this is David Keegan's footage from the final experiment. And what's interesting, I think, is you'll notice here is, look how the sun kind of squishes right here. The sun kind of squishes as it gets to that part of the firmament. It's pretty interesting, right? Joseph Hamvy's does the same thing. It squishes when you get to the outside too, right?
It squishes because that's where the camera, oh my gosh. It's where the camera has oh, forget it.
There at the outside. It squishes too. Better scene right here. It squishes as well. Look at that squish. Wow, it's almost like the observable reality that Will Duffy and some other people saw in Union Glacier is modeled and fits a biblical cosmological claim according to scripture. Amen. It's pretty amazing, right? We also talk about the scriptures describe the portals of heaven where the actual wind comes into our enclosure and gives us different winds. Those winds are recorded highest in the exterior perimeter of the Earth, what we would generally call Antarctica. This is a wind map from across the Earth which shows higher winds in Antarctica, just as scriptures might describe. We also see celestial movement in our dome. This is I'm actually going to skip this for now. We can look at this later, but this is experience of stars and how they look like they're in water. It's pretty interesting. This is what you've been shown by NASA that Venus looks like. Yet in 2021, someone recorded Venus actually looking like this. Look at that. Is that a ball in space? Nope, that's not.
What?
That's them recording Venus. Isn't that crazy?
What?
2021. It was actually done on a live stream.
Oh my gosh.
Declassified government documents, just real quick. We have all types of military and NASA documents that have been opened, available for public reading. And you can see that every single concept, whether it's the flight dynamics of a vehicle or a missile, talks about a flat, non-rotating stationary Earth.
Bless.
There's a ton. I'm going to just kind of fly through these. You can pause the screen and look at them later if you'd like. Even for rigid aircraft flying over a flat, non-rotating Earth, all of their calculations assume a flat, non-rotating Earth in their military documents. Military documents. For testing different missiles and vehicles, a flat, non-rotating Earth is how they tested them.
No,
they didn't account for curvature
lying so much.
or Coriolis.
So
it's a flat Earth.
It's for reference, people. I've read them all. I've gone through all of them. Every one of them confirms that the Earth is a globe.
Earth. Let's look real quick at the stars and their missing movement. So we see something like the Aquarius constellation, which is an equatorial constellation. And we see that this particular constellation, and these are all the stars that make up that constellation, we see that this one is seen every year of the month.
It's equatorial. As
every
predicted.
year of the month. But I thought the Earth was spinning around the sun, which means we would have 4 different points of observation.
Oh my gosh.
For the equator facing outward around the sun when it's night. We would have spring, summer, autumn, winter, 4 different points of observation. Should we see different constellations? But instead, this equatorial constellation is seen all throughout the year. This observable reality matches Genesis 1 better than the heliocentric model.
He just doesn't understand it. Oh.
Pretty amazing. Upward star movements are missing completely. So this is a video taken by the pilot who took a trip from Brazil to Lisbon. So that's at a northeast direction.
I did
So according
that
to
one.
Globe Math, the stars should look like this. Should be coming up as he's going over the curvature. The stars in front of him should be coming up This is actually modeled on Google Earth to show you what it should look like, but instead, the stars never move.
Oh my gosh.
So on his recorded flight, the stars never move. They don't come up. They just turn and rotate as the Bible describes. They never rise upward for the sake of the curvature of the earth. They're just circularly turning as the scriptures describe, specifically First Enoch. It's pretty amazing. So the observation of a 4,000-mile northeastern flight better matches what the Bible describes than what the heliocentric Big Bang cosmological model describes. Lastly, let's look at missing curvature, and this is actually a Union Glacier.
Shawn, you've only got 10 seconds left, just to let you know.
Okay. So this is Will's video here from Union Glacier, and you can see there's a distant mountain in the background that defies the curvature of the Earth. All these mountains, that mountain in the very back, 163 miles away. There's 0.3 of a mile of curvature. This is the mountain right behind this lady that should be blocking this mountain's view, but instead we see it in Duffy's drone footage.
Oh,
here's the observations and calculations for Will, if he ever wants to fact check this.
Duffy's ready for you.
This mountain is visible within his drone footage. Thank you, Will, for that wonderful biblical cosmological proof.
Shawn Griffin, thank you very much for your 30-minute opening statement. That concludes our opening statements and our 6 main points and arguments for tonight's debate. Gentlemen, Will and Shawn, I do appreciate the time you put into those opening presentations.
The problem with that mountain there, of course, if the earth were flat, it would have to be much higher.
I will put you backstage, Shawn, and bring in Will Duffy as we transition into our rebuttals. Now, for rebuttals, we have 10 minutes of uninterrupted time to engage each other's points and lines of evidence brought up in our 30 minutes of opening statements to the audience. I appreciate, again, all of the interaction and engagement. We've got a lot of questions coming in. I am all caught up on them. And of course, I am bumping the super chats to the top. And by the looks of it, we've already got about 20 of them, and so we will strictly be focusing on super chats, those specifically that don't have any personal attacks, and those that are asking questions related to tonight's topic. Will Duffy, we are now going to reset the timer, and you have 10 minutes for a rebuttal. I'll start the timer on your first word. Go ahead.
Cool. I probably won't need the entire time. So just as every globe prediction associated with TFE was correct, my prediction was also correct, which is that Shawn was going to try to make a case about the shape of the earth using the Bible. That was probably the most interesting opening statement I've ever seen in a debate, because it was largely a gigantic straw man. So for those of you that heard, Shawn started out by talking about the Big Bang and about heliocentrism, which he should know. Those are not things that I hold to. He talked about intelligent design, almost implying, I mean, in a debate, you're gonna, argue things that your opponent disagrees with, but I hold to intelligent design. So that was a pretty wild straw man opening statement that largely had nothing to do with the debate topic, which is the shape of the earth. Pretty crazy. Again, I'm going to hold Shawn's feet to the fire, because the shape of the earth is something that we can establish very easily in the present. We're not talking about something that happened however long ago that nobody was there to be there to see it or to witness it. We're talking about the earth that we live on, an earth that we can go out and look at, measure, test, explore, etc. And so the debate topic is an important one. It's one that we both agreed to, and it's one that I have already shown.
Sean didn't want to touch that
and
topic.
Sean has largely ignored. We will get to the scripture stuff, maybe. Again, if Shawn cannot understand earthly things, it's going to be difficult for him to understand heavenly things and spiritual things.
Throw down there.
As we looked at in John 3:12.
But yeah, we are going to start with the shape of the earth and hopefully finish there, as that is the topic of the debate. And if Shawn does not have a map or a model that can account for the 6 items that I brought up, then this debate is over. It's settled. Something else I'd like to mention is that it's not just 6 things. The globe makes pretty much countless predictions, and they always come true. And every time a flat earth person makes a prediction that contradicts the globe model, they are wrong. One of the new challenges I give to people who are still desperately holding on to flat earth after TFE is to just give me one globe prediction that they think will not come true, and they usually can't do that. So yeah, Shawn's going to have to provide a map and or model that can account for just 6 things. It should be easy. And if he can't, then this debate is over. The debate over the shape of the earth. We're not going to reinterpret the Bible to contradict the present reality that we live on. That's not a good position. No one should ever take that position. That would be silly. I do want to address a couple of other things. One of them is so much of what he brought up in his opening statement just had absolutely nothing to do with the debate topic, which was very interesting to me. Also, at the very end, he is claiming that there's a mountain in Antarctica that can be seen in my drone footage that should not be visible on a globe. I'm super excited to talk about that one because I did my homework on that one ahead of time. And sure enough, the globe prediction is right again. But I do want to point out a bit of a logical fallacy that Shawn is making and that flat earthers make when they say that we can see too far for the globe. That is also completely irrelevant to the shape of the earth discussion. If something could be seen too far, which there isn't anything, but if something could, that doesn't have anything to do with the shape of the earth. It doesn't mean we don't live on a globe. It could very well mean that we live on a bigger globe than the math formulas are accounting for. It has nothing to do with a flat earth. I also want people to realize that Shawn quoted a lot of scripture. He quoted from a lot of texts that the majority of Christianity does not consider scripture, which includes myself. And what's interesting is that if you go back and re-listen to his...
The Book of Enoch is not considered the Bible for most people. So when you have to cherry pick books that you put into the Bible that aren't generally considered to be part of the Bible, it's a little bit of a challenge, right? They just cherry pick Enoch to be in the Bible for flat earth. That's the only reason why they add it in, right? There's a lot of other things in Enoch that you'd read and say, what the crap is this? Why is this? Why would you think this is in the Bible? It really does read like science, science fiction, fantasy type, universe building.
Opening statement. You will, and you look at these passages and these verses that he's referencing. None of them say that the Earth is flat. So this is a bit of smoke and mirrors thing that flat earthers do, which is they again claim to be showing the flat Earth, and then they show verses that literally have nothing to do with the shape of the Earth or have nothing to do with the Earth being this flat plane. And so please don't be fooled by that. Go and read each one, and you will quickly see that none of them say that the Earth is flat. Now, the big one that Shawn is relying on is the Hebrew word rakia. And the Hebrew word rakia actually does not mean firmament. That is something that's relatively new in history. I had a Hebrew expert who lives in Jerusalem on my channel, Dr. David Weisskopf, and everyone should go listen to that discussion. He's a biblical Hebrew expert, and he's a modern Hebrew expert, and he's lived in Jerusalem for many decades. And he put out a challenge in that video to try and find
an authentic Jewish source that states that the Hebrew word rakia means firmament or dome, or that we live on a flat earth, and you just won't be able to find it. Flat earthers like Shawn utilize solely non-Jewish resources in order to make this argument. And in reality, when you look at the Jewish resources, you see that before there was even an English language, they were describing rakia as an expanse, essentially referring to the sky and referring to the heaven that way.
There's a sci-fi TV series called The Expanse. Where do you think they got that name from?
And one of the best ways to understand how, or understand what a word means, is in the context of that word being used. So if we look at Genesis 1, we're actually going to see that the birds fly both on, in, and above the rakia. And so that is completely a non-starter to claim that it is referring to a glass dome. Something else that flat earthers like to assume, which is not in the text anywhere, is that it's a hemispherical dome, meaning half of a sphere. That's on all the pictures that they use. Nothing in the Bible talks about anything that is in the shape of a half dome.
That's a great point. If they are going to be hyper literal about a firmament, it could be spherical. It doesn't change the shape of the earth.
Shawn mentioned
Still
Amos
wacky.
9:6. He had to cherry pick one translation, one English translation, which uses the word dome, which is unfortunately a very poor translation. The Hebrew word does not mean dome at all. I believe you're using the NASB there. In Christianity, we call this translation shopping, when you go pick which translation best describes what you're trying to argue. But Amos 9:6 does not say dome in the Hebrew. The word that's used in Amos 9:6, which is translated as many different things in different translations, such as assembly, such as strata, such as group, is also used in Exodus 12:22, and it's referring to a bunch of hyssop. So it's referring to a bunch of something, a group of something. It has nothing to do with being a dome. So that verse is out. And I do want to point out as well that flat earthers who like to try and distance themselves from a flat earth map, and again, they have to do this because they cannot account for the data. They can't even account for 6 things that a group of 9 of us saw in a week. So all it took us was 7 days to travel to 2 places on the earth, and just 6 simple things. There's more, but we agreed ahead of time in our debate negotiations to limit it to 6. Those 6 things cannot be accounted for on any flat earth map. So flat earthers try to distance themselves from a map, but they just can't help it. You'll notice in Shawn's opening statement that he used a flat earth map, not 1, not 2, but 3 times. And the flat earth map that he used every single time is the Gleason's map or AE map, azimuthal equidistant map of the world. And so once we get to the cross-examination portion, that is how this debate is going to start, is I'm going to ask Shawn if he has a map that can account for these 6 things, and if he does over. You've got to be able to account for the real world observations,
10 seconds.
world experiments that we did and that anyone else can do. And so we will see what Shawn can come up with.
Will Duffy, thank you very much for that 10-minute rebuttal. I will put you backstage and bring in Shawn Griffin. Shawn, I will reset the timer. And you also have 10
Shawn.
minutes for a rebuttal.
No
I'll start
evidence,
the timer
Shawn.
on your first word. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Okay. So tonight we heard a lot of rhetoric from Will. We heard a lot of bolstering, a lot of false claims of
Yes,
if this can't be
evidence.
shown, then all this else must be incorrect and the debate's over. And
He had evidence,
Yet,
Shawn. You
countless
didn't.
times, countless ideas
You
that
had
I presented
misunderstanding.
here, he has no answer for. So therefore, I'll just repeat the same rhetoric and say the debate's over, Will. You cannot account for many of the things I showed you today. So therefore, you're just going to have to concede and just, go back and trust the Bible, that it does match our reality, because the Bible does not match your claims at all. So we'll get into that in the cross. I'm excited about that. You made a lot of inerrant claims and then try to, I guess, apply them to me during your opening presentation, it was truly wasted time during your opening presentation. Instead of providing explanations about TFE and why these are solid proofs with, what is his name, Critical Think or whatever, his plane flight, without even showing the images. I've got the video pulled up. I can see how he's, I'm excited to talk to you about stuff like that, right? I watched your TFE videos, and I watched Critical Think try to do measurements with scales that weren't zeroed out and weren't calibrated, and how he's just trying to find a
he's just parroting Fkatzoid here.
Random flat spots so he can do like the most unscientific measurements that he's claiming. Oh, it proves the globe. Yeah, there's less centripetal force down here. It proves the globe. Like, just the most unscientific bolstering and bravado of nonsense.
You didn't address
and for
it,
you
Shawn.
to try to disassociate yourself from the Big Bang heliocentric model.
Shawn, what you should do is you should go repeat that experiment and show where he got it wrong. You're just saying nah and hand waving.
Must mean that you have a completely separate concept of the constellations and how that reticule has been put into a coordinate system as a map. This map that you claim that you do have that solves all your answers and your problems for yourself, that's based on a heliocentric modeling of the sky. So if you don't think that that's accurate based on everything, all the baggage that goes with that, well, then you actually have a massive fallacy where you want to eat your cake and just disregard all the actual fundamental concepts that you would have to swallow in order for you to believe that concept of you having an accurate map of the Earth based on this position of the stars in the sky, which is solely dedicated to, at least the claims of modern science, is that the position of the stars in the sky is dedicated to the heliocentric Big Bang cosmology. So for you to try to distance yourself from that is a very poor and weak attempt, very illogical. I'm surprised that you would do that. Furthermore, you claim of me that I'm not Dave Weiss, I'm not Eric Dubay, I'm not Sovereign Soul, I'm none of those guys. I'm a little disappointed with as much time as we had for this debate that you didn't go into all of my biblical cosmological videos and the claims that I've talked about, the illustrations I've shown. The things that I've shown tonight are just a small fraction of the stuff that I've actually been putting out in the past 5 years.
Jack Fetter says this guy is an arrogant, cocky D-bag. He certainly is. He's like, how come you didn't go to all my biblical cosmology? Because this is about the shape of the Earth, not about your very personal interpretation of the Bible. So you look at the shape of the Earth, you look at the things that flat earthers have claimed for the last 175 years. And how are you different? You're no different than all of them. Ask you these questions outside of this conversation, and you would have said all of the same things that they did.
Dedicated to this topic, so you could have been better informed about what I actually believe and teach from the scriptures, as opposed to just lumping me in with people who do claim that the A. Gleason's map is a accurate projection of distances and land masses and continent sizes, which I do not. So I don't like to be lumped into that in no way. I even sent you an email before we started this debate. I sent you an email. Donnie is a witness to this, telling you, hey, don't straw man me on the A. Gleason's map, because I don't hold to that. I'm not like the other flat earthers. I know why it was made, and I know what it's for, and it's not to accurately represent a firmament enclosed reality. But yet you're still even bringing it up here and now, claiming that because I use the concept of it as an illustration, that I hold to all of its claims. I don't.
Oh, so no map at all then. You're just ignorant and proud of it.
That's silly. So we'll get to that in more of the cross exam. That'll be fun, I suppose. But it's very interesting to me because the type of straw manning that you did, as far as showing other people's claims, like Eric Dubay, which I've never shared an Eric Dubay video in my life. I've listened to maybe 1 or 2 Eric Dubay videos in my life. I'm kind of off put by the guy. I don't think he's a good representative of this topic at all. And he doesn't believe in the God of the Bible, which you and I are believers in. I hope that you are anyway. You don't seem to really believe his words very much. But if you're going to lump me in with other people and then try to present that in our debates, well, then I'm going to lump you in with geocentrists like Tycho Brahe. You're not a Copernican heliocentrist then. Are you a Tycho Brahe geocentrist?
Oh my gosh.
Do you not believe in an elliptical orbit?
What a straw man.
Something different?
What a ridiculous straw man.
You must, right? Because if you claim not to be a Big Bang heliocentrist, then you can't be a Copernican heliocentrist. Then you must be a geocentrist. If that's the kind of fallacious, bad logic you're using for me, why can't I just use it for you? Do you even know who Tycho Brahe is?
It doesn't matter.
So for years, we've described and we've discussed a biblical cosmological firmament enclosed reality, which has multiple layers of heaven above, the firmament encircled earth, as I put all the definitions on screen, which you're ignoring, as well as the Sheol and Tartarus, which are below, which are in scripture. And I'm sincere, actually sincere, which is why I included as my last point, about the missing curvature at Union Glacier, I'm actually thankful to you that you went down there and you stirred up this conversation. It's kind of the greatest irony of 2024 and 25 that you've stirred up this conversation about a 24-hour sun, moon, and stars concept visible in Antarctica, or as I would say, at the outer extremities of the Earth that's enclosed by a firmament, because it did lead to us actually experimenting with the optics of that and seeing, oh, wait, you can actually have a rotating 24-hour sun from an observer point. As far as, you know, the azimuthal distant dome of his vision that he can see according to how the optics of a light shining in a circuit above a firmament, specifically a vaulted firmament like the Bible describes. What are the chances, Will?
Firmament?
How many, like if I were to
Firmament.
go into Grok and I were to put in, so there's a vaulted firmament with a light source above it shining down into it.
How about some evidence, Sean?
That creates not only a circular effect and goes through different gates of the year to create seasons, but also has an optical effect on the outer perimeter of the firmament where there's a 24-hour observer sun from that placement that works at all of the circumference of the firmament. What are the statistical chances, Grok, that those specific claims matches a...
Flat Earthers love to go to AI. Step one, ask the AI what shape the Earth is. Okay? If you don't accept that, then why would you take anything else from Grok?
biblical description of the Earth and no one else's description in all of history
Gary.
or in modernity? I just wonder what percentage of chances would come back from an AI like that. Oh, by the way, you did play a clip before the time the final experiment about me thinking there wouldn't be a 24-hour sun. Yes, that was my prediction. That was my understanding. I was wrong. It's okay. I was wrong about that, and I'm glad that you gave us some more trusted information. Unfortunately, I don't know who Anthony Powell is. I didn't get to talk to him like I did you. You and I spoke, what, 2 or 3 times? 2 times, I guess, at least before the final experiment. So when you went, and I knew other people that you took with, like Austin and Jaron, and I thought, okay, this is information that I can trust. So then I took that information, I trusted it, and now I realized, oh, okay, so now I have to absorb this into what I believe, and will it work in an actual firmament closed model? Lo and behold, it does.
It doesn't. It doesn't.
So it worked out. So just like scientists in the past, when they used to think that the sun was 22 million miles away, but now it's 93 million miles away, according to their calculations. So just like those guys were right when they were claiming 22 million, but then they had to change their mind. I was wrong. I changed my mind based on new information. Thank you for that new information. No big deal. I'm okay to admit I was wrong. But what hasn't changed is all the observations of a light that needs an enclosed medium to propagate, which is what a firmament provides for us. It's that water does need a container in order for it to stay level, which is what the firmament provides for us, which is what Proverbs and Job explicitly says. The vault of heaven, the firmament, is the circle that encloses the waters of the sea and the earth. That air pressure needs a container. Second law of thermodynamics.
That's not the second law.
So I'm happy that those things have not been changed. There's no new information there. Those physics of life are observed and depend on a firmament to create that effect for us and that demonstrable reality. So I don't have to change my mind on those fundamental concepts, just on this one particular aspect of the light in the sky that's moving overhead. So thank you for helping me come to a better understanding on that part of biblical cosmology. Also, I hope that we can get into your claims that you put up about a 24-hour moon. You just flashed it on screen. I think it was Anthony Powell. I don't think it was the Schwartz video. I think your Schwartz video was the stars. But I think it was the Anthony Powell video that you flashed on screen for like 5 seconds of a 24-hour moon being filmed, and it was at night. So I hope we can get into that with the cross exam as far as like if there's a 24-hour sun in the winter or in the Antarctic summer, then. And that's for what, 2.5 months or whatever. I'm just wondering when you filmed that, what month was it that you filmed that nighttime observation of the moon? Not even doubting anymore that it's a possible optical phenomenon of the firmament. I'm just curious as when that particular filming was done.
It's a possible optical phenomenon. Oh, that totally explains it. Yeah, it's a possible vague word salad. Therefore, don't need to address it.
10 seconds, Sean.
And lastly, the concept, this crazy idea that the firmament is a modern invention, just absolutely nonsense. I mean,
Sean, we probably just wrap it up because we are a little bit over 10 minutes. Yeah, and so I appreciate that rebuttal, Shawn Griffin. And let's bring in Will Duffy. We've got both our debaters here for our Great Shape of the Earth debate. We're moving along smoothly. As I said, this is a comprehensive one. We've concluded opening statements of 30 minutes, plenty of points and arguments on the table to engage, plus a 10-minute rebuttal. And I understand, gentlemen, these rebuttal periods fly by. Time moves quickly. And so we're now moving into our free flowing discussion. And so rather than a real strict cross-exam, this will be more of a conversation or discussion. And what we can do is do our best to make sure we're engaging each of the relevant points tonight, those brought up in our opening statements. Shawn, you just ended with your 10-minute rebuttal. Therefore, Will, why don't we give you the opportunity to pick the first topic or point to engage?
So Sean's AE map is the classic Mott and Bailey, right? When it works for him, he's like, oh yeah, the AE map, the Antarctic ring around the outside. But when you're pressed on it and it doesn't work, well, like, oh no, I don't use that. That's just a concept. I don't need to be held accountable to that. It's just, we don't know the map.
Engage in, again, 40 minutes of discussion. I'll start it on your first word.
Awesome. Okay, Shawn, I hope you see the difference between present day observations that any of us can make in talking about things that happened thousands or longer years ago. So the question of the...
What do you mean by that?
The question of the day is this. What I mean is...
I hope you can explain your first statement.
Boy,
yeah, I can. Quick. It's easier to establish facts in our present world than it is to try to understand something that happened a long time ago when we weren't there.
Do you believe that the Father's testimony is valid testimony?
Hey, Shawn, I'm sorry. So here's the deal. Can you or can you not?
This isn't a structured cross-exam. This is an open discussion.
Hey, Shawn.
One sentence.
Hey, Will. This is a tactic of yours.
It's not a tactic.
Yeah. Hey, Shawn.
I don't care I don't care how you try to dominate the cross. I'm asking you a question.
Nope, it's okay. I'm sorry. I told you I'm going to take a firm stance on this. Do you have a map or not that can account for just 6 of our observations last December?
I don't know what observations you're speaking of.
Well, that's insane because I just listed them in my opening statement. All 6. Wow. 24-hour sun, 24-hour moon, the sun setting to the south when you're south of the Tropic of Capricorn, south celestial pole, geographic south pole, southern hemisphere flights.
5 out of 6 works in a firmament enclosed model. The south hemispheric flights. I don't actually have, like you admitted in your rhetoric that there are no quote unquote biblical cosmological Cartesian surveyors, right? So we haven't had an opportunity to explore with great specificity the open waters of the ocean and the distance between land masses without the actual GPS of the modern day. So if we ever have a chance to do that, we may have to find a more accurate representation. But the first 5 things are accurately...
What a fail. What a fail.
Described in a firmament enclosed reality with the optical effects of light moving overhead, as I demonstrated in one of my points in my opening.
I asked about a map. Do you have a map that can account for our 6 observations? Yes or no?
I just told you that there is no Cartesian coordinates that have been discussed or mapped out as a surveyor for the firmament enclosed reality. So we haven't had a chance to do that. So I don't have a problem saying no. That doesn't disprove anything.
Actually, it does, Shawn.
It doesn't, Will. So let me ask you a quick question. You asked one, now my turn. Is the Father's word a valid testimony for our life and reality?
It depends. So here's the deal, okay? So the Father's word does not mention you or me, and it does not mention specifics about our earth today. So if you're trying to claim that it does, that's false.
So is the sun, moon, and stars still over our head?
They're different, but yes, they are still over our head, but they're completely different.
Just as it was in Genesis 1, they were put over the head of Adam, they're put over the head of you, they're above your head, right?
They're different. That's all I can say.
How are they different? No. I'm going to hold your feet to the fire, and you need to actually tell me how God's word has changed so drastically from when he wrote it, which has been documented to be consistent from early ancient Israelite writings to today, and how our observer reality today is somehow different. You need to go ahead and stand on business and explain that.
Easy. Sunspots are different. The sun is burning, so it's constantly changing.
You have record of sunspots in
Another
4000 BC?
Hey, Shawn, I really hope you're not going to argue this. This will be super embarrassing. We can see sunspots change while we're living, which means they are different than they were in the past.
That's not what I said. The sun is still in the sky over your head, as Genesis 1 describes in the Bible. Is that changed?
It's still in the sky. That's right.
Has the diameter of the sun changed?
Yes.
Since Genesis 1, the diameter of the sun has changed.
Of course, it's burning.
How have you measured the diameter of the sun changing since the days of Adam?
I haven't measured it, and I want to point out.
So you're just appealing to.
Hey, Shawn, let me answer. I want to point out to the audience, you are evading the topic of the debate, which is the shape of the Earth.
Sean needs a slap in the face every time he interrupts.
Talking about the sun, I'm going to point out every time you evade the topic, because this is what you do.
So let's go back. Let's go back. We have an actual witness here. We actually did a debate, a film debate agreement, where we discussed the actual prompt of the debate itself. So just for everyone that see he's showboating and not being very honest right now. So the concept of the debate prompt and resolution is which model of the shape of the Earth best accounts for the evidence. The sun, moon, and stars are absolutely a part of the models.
None of that talks about the Bible. None of that is about the Bible. That's about the model
that we're both presenting to talk about. So let's go back to some more logical, grounded, reality-based questions like the one I asked you, which is you're claiming that the Bible actually is an inaccurate depiction of major concepts like the sun, moon, and stars being over our heads, and that they're somehow different from what was described in Genesis 1.
Hey, Shawn, please don't interrupt me, okay? You just lied. You just strawmanned me. I never said that the fact that the sun, the moon, and the stars are above us is inaccurate in the Bible. You just strawmanned me. Please stop doing that.
Well, you literally just said the sun and moon and stars are different from when Adam saw them over his head.
That's
so
right.
maybe you can clarify and explain your stance a little
different than they
bit.
were yesterday.
I already did, Shawn. I said that
You did not.
Yes, I
You
did.
did
I said that the sunspots are different. So,
Actually,
Shawn,
I'm going to jump in real quick. So as moderator listening, my understanding of Will's answer was, and correct me if I'm wrong, and then Shawn will let you respond. You're saying they're different in the sense of their attributes, traits. So sunspots decreasing a little bit because of burning up. Is that what you meant, Will?
Of course.
Okay. Shawn, for me as moderator listening, that's what I understood his answer to be when he said different. Feel free to engage that point if you'd like to, Shawn.
Yeah. Are there still waters above the firmament as the Bible describes?
The Bible does not describe a firmament as a hemispherical crystalline dome, which is what you are stating. The Bible talks about an expanse, which is what Hebrew scholars, which you and I are not, have told me. And yes, there are waters above, which are clouds, and they're above the expanse that the birds fly in and above, according to Genesis 1. Now it's my turn to ask you a question, Shawn. I can't let this go.
We'll go back to that. We'll go back to the firmament.
That's fine.
Go ahead. I'd like to hear your question.
You said 5 of the 6 things are workable in whatever you called it in your model. Can you please explain?
Of course, Eric Burns. This is very painful as an astronomer.
To me, where the geographic South Pole, the Amundsen-Scott South Pole Station is. Where is that?
It's in the landmass south of Chile that is referenced as Antarctica. It's the Amundsen-Scott base that is down there. Apparently, it's a few hundred miles south of where you were at Union Glacier. That is the agreed upon location on the globe projection where it is, and I don't doubt that it's actually a landmass that's down there. So the Amundsen-Scott South Pole Station,
where is it?
Which is the place where you go at the Amundsen-Scott base, which is the landmass of Antarctica. I know what you're looking for. You're looking for 99. You're looking for it's at the bottom of the globe. This is a really silly question, but I'm telling you, according to what we're told from the globe projection, there's a landmass below Chile, right? And I contacted a tourist company trying to actually book a charter ship around that landmass that you said you went to at Union Glacier. And you know what they told me, Will? It was fascinating. So I've got the email. And they said, well, for one, you'll never find a captain that would actually do that journey. And 2, it would take about 3 months to accomplish that journey. So I'm sorry. And it would also take about $2 million to charter that ship so that you could circumnavigate the actual landmass of Antarctica and stay along the coastline. And so they said, you'll never be able to do that unless you have your own boat, your own captain, if you're a captain, and if you got more than a couple $1 million to accomplish that. I thought that was kind of suspect, kind of weird. But I'm actually giving you the benefit of the doubt for your answer. I'm actually giving you the idea that there is an actual location below Chile with a landmass where they have a military base, the Amundsen-Scott base, where there is a military base, South Pole down there.
Okay, Shawn. So unfortunately, you've just confirmed the globe and falsified flat Earth, and here's why.
No, brother.
The majority, so just so you know, no one has said, you're the first, that says that the Amundsen Scott South Pole Station is south of Chile on the AE map. You're the first. And
I don't describe the AE map, Will.
Well, it was in your opening statement 3 times. So that's on you, not me.
No, it wasn't.
Yes, it was.
No,
That's on you, not me.
No, it wasn't.
Hold on, Sean. I have to.
No, it wasn't.
I'm going to jump in, guys, with limited time because we're already 10 minutes in. Sean, you did speak there for about 2.5 to 3 minutes uninterrupted. What we'll do is allow Will to respond uninterrupted, and whatever he says, feel free to note it down. We'll give you the opportunity to respond as soon as he's done. You'll get an uninterrupted response. And what we're going to do for the remainder of the 30 minutes is go that way, or else I feel like there's just going to be too much talking over each other. So, Will, it's your turn for an uninterrupted response. Then, Sean, you get an uninterrupted response. Go ahead.
Okay, great. So, Sean, you do hold to the AE map, and I can prove that in 2 ways. One is you used it in. Please don't interrupt me. Okay,
well,
so
don't put words in my mouth when
I'm going to jump in.
Sent you an email before the debate.
I'm going to jump in, guys, because I really want this to flow smoothly. Sean, if you disagree with something Will says, let's say he makes an assertion and you feel like or even if it's a misrepresentation, note it down and you'll have plenty of time to respond. And same thing with you, Will. If Sean says something that you disagree with, and let's say Sean makes an assertion or misrepresents you, note it down, Will, and you'll have an uninterrupted opportunity to respond. I feel like that's the best way for us to move forward. So, Will, uninterrupted, then Sean, no worries. You get an uninterrupted response as well. Go ahead.
Awesome. So, Sean, I know you hold to the AE map for 2 reasons. One is you used it in your opening statement. And second, you've done 2 videos, which I can pull up if we need, after we got back from Antarctica. In the first one, you said that Antarctica is on the outer edge of the flat Earth. That is the AE map. And on the second video, you said Antarctica is stretched to the outer edge of the flat Earth. That is the AE map. Now, here is why the Amundsen Scott South Pole Station cannot be south of Chile on a flat Earth. A majority of the people who go to the Amundsen Scott South Pole Station get there from New Zealand. To get from Santiago, Chile to Auckland, New Zealand is about an 11 to a 12-hour flight. And they get to the Amundsen Scott South Pole Station from Christchurch, New Zealand, after they land in Antarctica in 3 hours, Sean. So this does refute flat Earth, and it does confirm the globe, unless you can explain where the Amundsen Scott South Pole Station is on a flat Earth. And I'm here to say it's impossible.
No, Sean, over to you. You get an uninterrupted response. Go ahead.
Okay. For one, I sent you an email before the debate. I tagged Donnie in it as well. I'm going to read the email right now. It says, Donnie and Will, we didn't talk about who's the affirmative starting position due to the neutrality of the debate prompt, but Will, if you're going first, be sure not to spend your entire presentation strawmanning me on the Gleason's AE map. Many in the FE biblical cosmological community use that projection poster as a reference, but don't think and never have thought it accurately represents the continental boundaries or sizes and placements on the firmament circle of Earth. I've never promoted the AE Gleasons as an accurate depiction of a reality because I know that that map is a globe coordinates projection mainly created for calculating longitude and time zones. I sent you that email specifically so we could save time during the debate and avoid this nonsense you're doing right now. Where you say, because I use it as a illustrative concept, never claimed that I trusted any of the measurements that are put on it because we haven't been able to make our own measurements. And it's not even used for measurement. It's used for longitudinal and time zone concepts. Do you even know that's the initial purpose of the Gleason's map?
No.
Are you even listening?
Yeah, no, I'm definitely listening.
You don't know that. So did you even understand my email to you? Like I tried to avoid this ahead of time. Like, bro, I don't ascribe to the Gleason's AE map in like some flat earthers might. You should debate me today, not some straw man of some other person. Secondly, hold your little map up again, if you would, please. And point to the landmass below Chile. You see that big, thick area, even on this little projection? You see that? So take your finger and point to that landmass right below Chile. Yeah, you can put a South Pole Station there, Amundsen Scott Base, and it works just fine.
It doesn't work.
It's fine.
It doesn't work.
Okay, so I have to respond to that, Sean. It doesn't work fine because how then do people that fly from Christchurch, New Zealand, to Antarctica on a very short flight get all the way here in 3 hours. That's physically impossible.
Oh my gosh.
I just told you that that is not an accurate representation of the land masses, boundaries, and sizes between continents.
Well,
There
then
are
what
other maps
is?
throughout history
What is
that show
Chuckles?
different placements of them? Are you even familiar with the different maps other than that particular projection that you're holding up?
I am. The problem is there is
Okay.
no map you can point to. There is no layout of the
basically-
continents you can point to that can
Okay.
account for the short flights that all get to the exact same place, the geographic South Pole.
That's
it's
what you-
impossible.
That's your claim. Okay. So you made some claims. That's great.
All right. How
So
does
I
it
put
work,
up
Shawn?
today, I put up
How does it work?
in my opening statements, which I hope you would actually.
Remember that the challenge was which model best fits. So now Shawn has the necessary burden to provide the model that fits better than the globe. Will he? Of course he won't.
Like to address at some point some of the things I put forward. The Aquarius constellation in the sky, this is an equatorial constellation. You can see it all throughout the year. No matter which place is revolving around the sun and facing the solar system around you in the heliocentric model. Do you ascribe to the heliocentric model? And two, do you understand why that's impossible in a heliocentric model?
It's not impossible.
I'm going to have to call you out again, Shawn, for not being on topic. The heliocentric model has nothing to do with the shape of the Earth. There are many, many people that reject heliocentrism. There's many people that hold the geocentrism, and that has nothing to do with the shape of the Earth.
Let's do this again. Debate resolution in the video description of the actual video we're doing today. Which model of the shape of the Earth best accounts for the evidence?
Yes, shape of the Earth.
So
You
Shawn
haven't
and
presented
stars?
a model.
Your TFE 24-hour sun is literally about the model that you purport.
Where's
So
your
I'm
model,
asking about
Shawn?
the stars. You brought up the sun.
Where's
You
your
think
model,
that supports
Shawn?
your globe model. I'm asking about the stars movements, and I'm saying they do not support your globe model. And in fact, you can see the Aquarius constellation 12 months out of the year, and no matter where you're facing in the heliocentric solar system, you can see it, which is impossible in a heliocentric model. Debate's over, right? It should be that simple, but this is where we're discussing what evidence fits the model best. Did I miss something in the wording, Donnie?
Are you, Shawn, are you stating that the lights in the sky can tell us about the shape of the ground we live on?
Oh, good question.
Donnie, did I miss something in a debate prompt? Are we discussing which evidence best supports the shape of the Earth model?
The resolution I have, which I've gone over several times for us and the audience, which model of the shape of the Earth best accounts for the evidence?
So, Will, that'll be the last time you bring that up, okay? You're just wasting time. So, yes,
Okay,
I do say, just like you say, the
present
movement
your
of the
model,
sun proves the
Shawn.
shape of the Earth. I'm saying the movement of the stars disproves the globular claims of a heliocentric model. Yes,
Okay,
the movements of the stars and how they can be seen supposedly in a heliocentric model, no matter which way you're facing, as your back is to the sun, which is impossible.
I'll need a
in the
citation
solar
for that,
system.
Shawn.
Okay, so you didn't. I don't know what evidence you provided for this. You showed like a cartoon.
Did you watch my presentation? Did you take notes?
You didn't.
You're interrupting me again, Shawn.
Are you doing a good faith debate today, Will?
Yes, you
Oh my
showed
gosh, stop interrupting, Shawn.
like a cartoonish drawing in your opening statement, and that's the only evidence you provide. In contrast that, I showed you a video of the South Celestial Pole, which is stars rotating in the opposite direction, which is impossible on a flat Earth.
No, it's not. It's actually an optical effect of the firmament. So
Prove it.
as you move to the outer edges of
Prove
the
it, buddy.
firmament, the optical lights that are circling
salad.
over the center of the firmament, they have an effect on the outer edge, and there's different stars and how they project to be seen according to the outer edge of the firmament. This is it's just a part of the rotation that you see as your hemispheric dome of observation is what it's called. Right? It's actually the very video that I skipped in my opening presentation because of time. And so as you actually are looking around, there's a convergence point between the ground that you're looking at in the distance with all the stars and everything in the atmosphere is how your eye works. There's a convergence point. And so as you turn a 360, you can only see so far. And
It's
as
how
you
your
do
eye
that,
works,
you
but
see,
cameras get it too.
different, you only see a limit to how many stars you can see in the sky. And that hemispheric dome of observation will change the further to the outer edges of the circle of the Earth that you get to, allowing you to see the stars rotating in a different fashion above your head at the outer edges of the Earth. So this is it's a mixture of how your eyes work with the hemispheric dome of vision with the optical effects of a dome with lights above it shining down into it.
Okay, great. So please let me respond without interrupting. Number one, there is no firmament. There is no dome. You've produced zero evidence that there's a firmament, zero evidence that there's a dome. It's never been observed, can't be tested, can't be seen. So I can't let you slide. Number two, if that's not a big enough hurdle, the second one is even worse. You're implying that the southern celestial pole is a reflection of stars in the north. That's completely false. They're different stars. They're different constellations. So you have not solved this in any way, shape, or form.
Okay, my turn. Are you ready? So I presented tonight in my opening statement the definitions of the word firmament expanse. They're a solid structure. This is detailed, scholarly agreed upon definitions. You claim you found some random, unnamed, unpresented. You're just appealing to some rando who's a Hebrew scholar, you claim, who says it's never been the definition. Yet I can pull up Josephus, Antiquity of the Jews, Book 1, who is an actual Pharisee, an actual Jewish person, and he claims in Antiquity of the Jews in Book 1, he says, and on the second day he placed the heaven over our world and separated it from the other parts, and he determined it should stand by itself. He placed a crystalline firmament around it, that's our world, and put it together in a manner agreeable to the earth. I also have a demonstration of apostolic preaching in the 2nd century AD, where he describes a firmament of 7 layers encompassing our earth. This is Irenaeus in Demonstration of Apostolic Preaching. So, and that's chapter 1, verse 9. So in addition to the actual scriptures I presented, that there's a vaulted circle that encompasses the waters of the earth, we have historical testimony from Jewish people, since apparently that was your random litmus test. So documented historical continuity with the prophets and the testimony of God through the prophets is also documented by some random people after the days of the apostles. So you're completely wrong. Your claims are fallacious.
Hey, Shawn, nothing you just said and no verse that you referenced.
This is not Mallrats, bro. You got to have a better argument.
You're interrupting me again. Nothing that you just said and none of the verses that you had in your opening statement talk about a hemispherical dome. So I can't let you get away with this. You're trying to pull the wool over people's eyes, and it's very easy because you will not
just allow Will to finish, and then you'll get it uninterrupted.
Donnie, if we're going to allow slanderous accusations about my intent and character, then this is not a good faith debate, right? So let's just keep it. Let's keep it above the board, Will. Right? You want to be an honest person, so you don't want to be assuming that I'm trying to pull the wool over people's eyes. I'm not assuming you're trying to pull the wool. I've never made claims about your videos about you saying that, as many as other people have. I've always given you a good faith discussion. Can you agree to that?
Yes, I can. So,
okay,
Shawn,
so stop with the nonsense and act like a man. Okay.
Okay, thanks.
Okay.
So Shawn, none of the verses you quoted talk about a hemispherical dome, so I have to push back on that. And it'll be very easy to demonstrate this to the audience because I can say right now, you can't pull up a single verse in the Bible that mentions a hemispherical dome.
Yeah, that's a special pleading. It's like, what is it, Texas sharpshooter fallacy? Just you're wanting specific wording. It's an all or nothing fallacy. That is not the do you even said it yourself, Will?
It's just, let me name every fallacy I can think of quick.
Context helps us understand what's being described. Okay, so I put him, which apparently you didn't listen to a single thing I said.
And he's the only one that has the right context. Nobody else understands context better than him. How do you know? Because he named his channel Kingdom in Context. Therefore, he has more context than anybody else.
But I put up verses that talks about Proverbs chapter 8. He established the heavens as a compass on the face of the depth.
Aww.
Okay? The word heaven was given to the word firmament as a compass on the face of the depth. Job 26:10, he encircled the waters with bounds.
So Lael asks, is Shawn a biblical inherent? If yes, why is he using any translation of the Bible other than King James? I don't know. I think the only translation of the Bible that he thinks is inerrant is the Shawn Griffin translation of the Bible.
It's very specific.
None of that
of the firmament
is a hemispherical dome. I'm sorry.
Okay, again, that's just a weird debate fallacy. It's an all or nothing fallacy. But
no,
okay,
Shawn, it's not. Your entire argument is
based off the definition of the words.
You're interrupting me again. Your entire argument is based on a hemispherical dome. And so you can't say that I'm just trying to nitpick here. This is your entire argument. You think a hemispherical dome solves the 6 observations we made. It doesn't. It definitely doesn't, especially with flights. And you're not demonstrating that a hemispherical dome exists. The Bible never says that, and it's never been observed. So your whole position is a non-starter.
Okay, so let's go into your claim of translation shopping, right? We did Amos 9:6. The NASB does call a vaulted dome over the earth. And you said, well, that's just a modern one-off English translation. But here I have the JPS Tanakh, 1917, that says that he builds his upper chambers in the heaven. He founded his vault upon the earth. What is the vault that's founded upon the earth? What's a vault and how is it founded upon the earth, Will?
It's not a hemispherical dome.
What's a vault?
I don't know what a vault is. I mean, I can tell you what a vault is in the Olympics.
All right, bro. Okay. So did you want to talk about the 24-hour sun and how it's an optical effect of the firmament?
So he wanted to refute Will's translation shopping by shopping translations.
Because you went on this awesome trip at Antarctica. You saw all these wonderful things. Did you see any penguins?
No, let's stay on topic. So, Shawn, I do want to talk about the 24-hour sun because
that's what I just asked you about. Yeah.
There is something that Flat Earth has no answer for, which is that the 24-hour sun in Antarctica makes a wave pattern through the sky. Everyone's seen it in our videos, but there's only one spot you can go to in Antarctica where it doesn't, and it stays at the same elevation, which is the geographic South Pole. So this is where Joe Hanvey's model utterly fails, even setting aside that he has his camera outside the dome and no one is outside of a dome. Flat Earth cannot account for that, but the globe perfectly predicts it. And we actually predicted the elevation angles of the sun at Union Glacier before we got there, and they matched perfectly.
So this is where I was actually searching for this video. I couldn't find it, but I was searching for this video of, since you've brought this topic up and people have been experimenting with firmaments and the sun and the 24-hour concept, it actually does work. There's a gentleman out there that put the camera underneath the hemispheric dome at the base of it, towards the outer edge of the perimeter of the dome.
I did that. It didn't work.
And circled lights above it, and you see it reflecting inside the dome as well. So unfortunately, I was trying to get the video prepared, but I just couldn't find it. And some of the people I knew that had it, they also couldn't find it. So point is, long story short, I don't have to demonstrate everything about everything in order to say that God's word is true.
You have to demonstrate it's Shawn's word. Remember, Shawn has the version of God's word that's Shawn's word. But you do need to provide everything. That's the whole point. That's the topic. Which model better explains the shape of the earth? And if you can't answer it, that's a lose for you.
And that he actually placed the sun, moon, and stars above us, as well as, I don't know what the specific shape of the hemispheric firmament is. So just as you know, in a vault, if you look at different types of architecture, the general concept of a vault is one thing, but then it can have specificity and shape as it tapers off and as it has, so I don't know if you've ever studied like Gothic architecture or whatever, but there's different types of vaults that are encompassing, that are solid structures that are vaulted over a flat surface, but they'll have slightly different shapes to them. It's my speculation, as I put forward in the actual concept of 7 firmaments of heaven, that the sun is in the 3rd firmament, shining down through multiple layers of firmament by the time it gets to us, and also through a layer of water. So that could also have some incredible optical effects that we just haven't demonstrated yet. So it's in process. So I do want to thank you for bringing this up.
Yes, but you didn't deal with the issue, which is that the globe model predicts the sun the 24-hour sun makes a wave pattern other than the geographic South Pole.
Mark Van Wisco says one of the 4 church fathers, St. Augustine, states that if there is a conflict between science and biblical interpretation, that one must defer to scientific consensus. Yeah, I'm aware he said that, and that's very wise, right? And it's not stating just follow whatever blindly. It's, if there's a disagreement, then why not go with the people that are looking at that, specifically trying to examine the evidence and figure out these things, because that wasn't the point of the Bible.
That's exactly what we observed and experienced. Not only that, we predicted the exact elevation angles and they were right. So that refutes flat Earth right there.
It doesn't refute flat Earth, brother. It's just because you had the placement of the sun, as is, do you understand that the maps we have is basically the star positions it's created, the graticule of the coordinate position on the Earth.
The graticule.
Do you understand that's how they make maps?
I believe maps today are made from satellites, which are taking pictures of the Earth from space. So that's why we have such accurate maps.
So all throughout history, I don't even know if we want to go into this because you just said you have no clue about it. So I'm not going to sit here and give you a lesson on how this works.
Oh, you're going to give a lesson.
I apologize,
Sean's going to give a lesson because he heard Shame Saint Plagiaire talk about it. And Shame talked out of his butthole. Sean doesn't understand this topic either.
Just think that we're at a huge impasse in certain points of the conversation when you're like, I have no clue about that. And it matters to your understanding on what you're claiming, right? Just the same way you claim, well, that's not the definition of firmament. It never has been. But here I pull up historical documentation and you just say, everything you said isn't true. Like, this is weird. This is not intellectually honest.
Okay, so Sean, here's the cool thing.
So I asked you about the constellations in the sky and how you can see them at different points in the year throughout the solar system. Would you please address how that's possible in a heliocentric model?
Hey, Sean, I have no idea what you're referring to. You did not provide any evidence. You did not
Donnie,
provide...
can I put this on screen to show him what I'm talking about?
Please don't interrupt me.
Okay, let's allow Will to finish his thoughts, and then Sean, if you wanted to screen share something, feel free to do so.
Cool. So, Sean, you made a claim. You didn't provide any evidence. You didn't provide any videos. That's what I came with. I came with receipts. I came with videos. I came with eyewitness testimony. So if you're going to make a claim right now without any evidence, it's going to be very difficult for me to respond to because I don't know what you're talking about.
You don't, but I have it in the studio. If you wouldn't mind putting it on screen for me, Donnie, I appreciate it. So here's the evidence that the world, through Google, will tell you that the Aquarius constellation is visible every month of the year: February, March, April, May, June. Okay, it's visible in the southern hemisphere.
He went to
and in the
AI,
north, by the way, but also in the southern every month of the year. So if we go to an actual depiction of the model that you believe in, which is a heliocentric model, you see as the globe turns and spins around the sun, there's a portion when it's nighttime, it's facing away from the sun and facing different coordinates throughout the solar system throughout the year.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Summer,
Awesome.
autumn, winter, and spring. And this particular constellation is seen every month of the year, all throughout the year. How is that possible?
Okay, great. So I will establish that we're using AI here for your claim, which is fine. That AI would also tell us that we live on a sphere. I know something from personal experience, which is that the North Star is visible all year.
I asked you about the Aquarius equatorial constellation. It's important that you stay on topic.
I am staying on topic.
Equatorial constellation.
I am staying on topic. I've never heard of
If you can't
Aquarius.
account for this, then the globe's dead.
Sean, you keep interrupting me. I am answering you. So I know that Polaris is visible all year, and that is completely possible on a globe. And so I'm guessing, because this is the first I've ever heard of this, that whatever constellation this is visible in the same way. But again, I want people to notice the level of evidence.
Okay, before you go into the rhetoric,
no, you're interrupting me. You're interrupting me.
You've moved away from the answer.
Because to be fair, you have, I think at this point, been talking more than Will, and that's okay. It's a free-flowing discussion, but just to keep it as even as possible, Sean, Will, let's allow Will to finish his thoughts, get out what he'd like to get out. Sean, you're always free to note down what he's saying, something you disagree with, or maybe.
Donnie, I'm not trying to be rude. I'm stopping.
I'm putting my foot down. We have 9 minutes left.
Donnie.
I've just made a rule. Okay, this is what we're going to do. Will, take your time. Sean, you can address it after. Okay, go ahead, Will.
Awesome. So I want people to realize the quality of the evidence that the globe side brings, which is video evidence, high definition video evidence, multiple eyewitness testimonies. If I were to have come to this debate using AI to say, Sean, look, AI says we live on a globe, you wouldn't accept that. So what I'm going to have to tell you, Sean, because this is something that I've never seen, I'm going to have to tell you that I'm going to have to go look into it. But I can tell you that people are blowing up my phone right now, and they're saying that AI is actually wrong, which AI is wrong all the time, and that Aquarius is not seen all year, and that you will not be able to have solid video evidence of this.
Sean, you get an uninterrupted response. Address whatever you'd like to. Go ahead.
If you'd please put on screen what I put in the. So you want high definition. How about your own footage? Is that high definition enough for you?
Yes, thank you.
High definition. Okay. So we can look at your own footage, okay? High definition drone footage from Will Duffy and Union Glacier. Speaking specifically about a mountain range called the Sentinel Range.
That's not Aquarius. He totally changed the
multiple
topic.
Mountains within this range, okay? We zoom in on the range. I'll put up on screen on the right-hand side the Google Earth projections for the distances from Union Glacier up into Mount Vinson, which is 86 miles away. Now, according to the observer height and the calculation of the curvature of the Earth, this should actually be the horizon, the apparent horizon. But yeah, we can see much further than that. And if we go, there's another mountain peak in the back.
Sean is walking into a trap right now.
It's 100 miles. If we go to this little one on the far right-hand side, which is much smaller, that's actually also 89 miles away. But if you look very, very close in the very back, you can see further beyond a specific shape to its right, much further in the distance in the back. That's grayed out with shadows because it's so far away. It's actually 140 to 163 miles away. I apologize. That's a typo. 163 miles away, which matches the yellow box on the right-hand side. As far as the distance, on Google Earth where this mountain range is. And this lady's pretty cool. She is actually, she's climbed all 7 of the highest peaks in the world. And she took a picture of this mountain range. It's behind her as she stands upon Mount Vinson. And you can see that mountain range in the back. And there it is. It's the same shape as the one we see to the right, which is 163 miles away.
That sphere is a tough shape to see.
And that is the actual, it's 0.03. It's at 0.3 of a mile. It should be hidden by the curvature of the Earth by 0.3 of a mile, but instead you can still see that far.
They never get the math right.
Far away to see this further in range behind.
Okay, can I respond?
Yeah, you can respond, brother.
Can you go back to that last slide, please?
The zoomed in one, or what's one of the other ones?
The one with the numbers. Okay, cool. So you missed one thing, which is the elevation where we were at Union Glacier. You only have the drone height here. So this is common, by the way.
4,900
flat earthers
feet.
do mess up the globe math frequently. Do you have any idea what the elevation is at Union Glacier?
I don't. What's the elevation?
About 2,000.
It's 700 feet.
700 meters.
Okay.
700 meters.
So can you add that to this and tell me what it says when you've added it?
To what? You want to add it to the eyesight level?
Of course.
Because that's not how it works. Because you already have your elevation above 700 feet.
Using the height of the
Did
mountain.
your drone calculate as a
Above sea
baseline
level.
of 700 feet, or did your drone calculate 4,900 feet above sea level?
Okay, so I have to correct you because this is super important, and I think you'll agree with me on this. Okay, if you are assuming the globe model, I'm going to answer. Assuming the globe model, if you are standing on the beach and you're looking out versus standing on a mountain and looking out, can you see further if you're standing on a mountain?
Yeah, you can see further because you've raised in elevation. I'm asking you, you have a video where you put the schematics of all the logistics of your drone flight on camera, and that's where I got the 4,918 feet while making this observation. Was that from sea level, or did you input a baseline of 700 feet?
It was based on, it's essentially zeroed out from where you launch.
Okay, so you're claiming that it already assumed 700 feet above sea level. Is that true?
Sorry, I made a huge mistake. It's 700 meters, not 700 feet. So yes, the elevation that you're so essentially, I'm standing on a mountain essentially in Antarctica, and then my drone went an additional 1,500 meters above that. So you're missing 2,100 feet of elevation in your math here. That's the first problem.
Yeah, wrong math.
Well,
Silence.
can you give me some documentation that that's how your drone works?
Yes, you could talk to anybody that uses a drone. They'll tell you that if you literally go to like a 14er, which I know you're close to, that we have in Colorado, and you launch a drone from the top of the 14er, it starts at 0 and goes up from there.
Can you explain to me the distance of horizon that's on screen here?
No.
Change.
So do you not know how that works?
I don't know what I'm looking at. You made this slide.
No, this is just a calculation, a screenshot from a curvature calculation. So you put in the fields. You're asking me to adjust the eyesight level field and add 700 meters.
Yes.
Right? Without documentation. You're asking me to do that without documentation because your drone readings says 4,918 feet. So I'm asking you, within your drone readings, do you know how the distance to horizon works? At 85 miles, it says that there's a horizon at 85 miles. Can you explain what that horizon is?
No. I don't know the math that you're using for this. I'm sorry.
Okay. Well, you can go to any curvature calculator and put in the same numbers. It'll show you the distance to horizon is 85 miles. Well, guess what's 85 miles away? It's Mount Vinson. And you can see the base of it. You can see the bases of all the foothills to the right of Mount Vinson as well. You can see 85 miles away. You can see the supposed horizon 85 miles away. Yet you can see another mountain that's an additional 80 miles beyond that. Another full 0.3 of a mile of curvature should be hiding because the apparent horizon should be right here.
Okay, so a couple problems, which is
Are you reading from McToon at this point?
I'm not. The height of these mountains that we're looking at are not being calculated in your calculation. But here's the biggest one, which I spent hours, and I got to give credit where credit is due. Ruhif helped me tremendously on this. How are you determining the mountain, the blurry mountain from my drone footage? How are you determining
I
which
just showed
mountain
you my presentation, brother.
that is? No, I'm asking you.
I showed you it's the same shape when you actually zoom in like I tried to do. I showed you this the same shape of this mountain far to the right of the Sentinel Range, towards the back, beyond the third foothill. And it's the same shape as the one that's at the far back of your high quality photo that you took.
Okay, so Shawn, this is super important. We noticed in Antarctica how the mountains have very similar shapes to them.
I don't know
There's
how to
actually
identify the shape of
multiple-
the mountain.
No, please, Shawn, don't be disrespectful. There's multiple mountains in Antarctica
little
just
smudge.
around Union Glacier that actually have pyramid shapes to them. So you're making a wild leap here, claiming that a blurry mountain in the background of my drone footage must be another specific mountain because they have a similar shape. Mountains generally have a similar shape. If you're okay, I actually worked with Ruhif.
Here's a photo I have on screen of your high altitude,
middle of the
high
sentence.
definition stuff.
Middle of the
Are these
sentence.
mountains of a similar shape? You mean because a mountain has peaks?
Hey, Shawn, I worked very tirelessly on this to actually figure out what the mountain is in the background, and you're wrong on the mountain. And so if I'm allowed to share my screen now, I'd like to present that.
Sure. Is
Thank you.
the slides I see at the bottom or presentation at the bottom, Will, is that what you'd like me to share?
You can go ahead and share it. I'm adding it to it right now.
Okay.
You worked very hard on it. Is that what you said? But you don't know the apparent horizon?
I worked very hard on your example. So, Shawn, the mountain that you can see in the back of my drone footage is Flowers Hills.
No, it's not. I already have this one in the footage. You have to look at my presentation. All right, look.
Yeah.
This one. This is Flowers Hills. It's 89 miles away. I have it pointed out. It's the third foothill that you see from your high def photo. You know what foothills are. You live on the Front Range like I do.
I'm
not the third foothill. That's anyway.
Saw you drop a full Thanos on Isaac. Yeah, I have no idea who this Isaac guy is who wants to debate me. And he's like, I never replied to you before. I have no damn clue who you are. Wait, why was Frank Noble? There's nothing wrong with Frank Noble here. Be careful with what you're doing by blocking him. Like, if somebody's doing something that should be blocked, then like a screenshot of it would be good to have, and then I to show me, like, and then send to me and be like, oh yeah, that kind of stuff needs to be blocked, but this shouldn't be blocked. I don't know why that would be blocked. There's nothing wrong with that.
I would disagree with you. I'll disagree with you.
Okay. We spent a lot of time on this to try to figure out exactly what the mountain was. And the mountain that's in the background is Flowers Hills. Now, regardless, I'm going to share one more thing, which is super important. 1 second. Okay. 1 second here.
Jack Fetter, I'm a 10-year drone operator. If altitude is based on sea level, you'd crash your drone constantly. It's based on takeoff elevation.
Shoot. Sorry, guys. Give me 1 second.
But Shawn doesn't trust you. You're not AI.
Okay. All right. Share this tab instead. So this is software that we utilized to determine elevation, peaks, and distances. And you'll notice there's something there called the max distance visible, and it's 239.9 kilometers. So once you factor in observer height of the drone, elevation of Union Glacier, and direction that you're looking, you can see very, very far.
Is refraction included in this?
It's not.
It's not, is it? Why is it not included in this?
Because I didn't need it.
So your doesn't help you, Shawn.
When you need it.
No, your one example is visible on the globe. No problem.
Interesting. So why does it look flat?
Oh my gosh.
Big objects that are curved look flat. Even
So
a
do you-
2 Sean, even a
Can you
2
show
by
me on
4
this
at Home Depot
projection that
that has
McToon just sent
curve
you?
to it looks flat.
Let's
It
forget about Home
doesn't
Depot. Can you
look
show me this
flat.
projection that you just brought up that McToon sent you that you did not put together yourself? Can you show me the apparent horizon on this projection you just made?
He did that himself.
Number one,
That
I've got
wasn't
to
me.
push back on that personal attack there. MC Toon did not send me this. He did not help me with this. This was all Ruhif.
That was
And if you
Ruhif.
look in the lower right corner, this screenshot was taken April 12th.
Okay. So can you show me where the apparent horizon here is this and why? Two-part question. Where's the apparent horizon and why does everything behind it look flat?
I don't know what you're referring to by an apparent horizon, so I can't point to it. And the reason, and by the way, it actually doesn't look flat. There's a lot of bumps in the middle.
Okay. Awesome.
Cool.
We'll have to agree to disagree on this one. So we have no answer for equatorial. You just have the claim of you have the claim of, oh, it's impossible to see.
No, that wasn't my claim. My claim
You have
was
the claim that the firmament doesn't exist. I think we're around time, so I'm just trying to give a conclusion here to our cross.
That's fine.
You claim that
I'll
my arguments
respond
are null and void
to
because
these
the firmament
strongmen.
doesn't exist. Is that right?
yes. So number one, on the equatorial one, I said you didn't provide any evidence.
Martin H. Why was this? Right? I get that he's poking at you, Martin. But that's okay. That's okay. Let him do that. All right? And there it is. He says, I appreciate it. And right, even though Frank Nobles is kind of being a jerk here, it seems, it's okay. He's free to be a jerk here. He's not doing anything that might put my channel at risk, and he's not going there. He's not making false accusations about people's sexuality and things like that. Those kinds of things. Let him say it. Okay? I don't want to give him a wrench to prevent it. Okay? Don't make me do that.
I'm happy to look at evidence, but this is the first that I'm hearing of it. And again, people are blowing up my phone saying that AI is wrong. So again, that's possible. We can go ahead and look at that. And yes, I did say that you have not provided any evidence of the firmament whatsoever.
So there's no refraction involved in your drone footage. You admitted that. But you
There's
had
no-
230 miles away.
You,
Looks flat.
Sean.
240 kilometers.
Okay, which is 100. Now the entire range is like 217 miles, but from your observation point on Union Glacier is approximately to the far range that I'm pointing out, not to the 89 miles away that you think that you're pointing out, but to the mountain behind the one that I pointed out, 163 miles away. Why does that look flat from your observer point? Why shouldn't that be obscured by 0.3 miles of curvature?
The globe doesn't
So
predict that.
you don't. The Earth is so big that you don't start to see curvature until you get to around 40,000 feet. So the globe does not predict, Sean, that a drone at 1,500 meters is going to see curvature left or right. That's just
Okay,
a drama.
interesting. Okay, so you said earlier that if there are any observations where people can see too far, and you're not, I guess, invoking magical refraction, which only apparently works in one direction, never works left and right, just always works in one direction.
Correct.
Globers. If you're not invoking refraction and there's an observation that can be seen too far, you said that the globe could be bigger.
No, I said if it was established that something that the current globe model says cannot be seen, can be seen, that doesn't in any way, shape, or form refute a globe. That was a
Clive was okay. Yeah, he was spamming anti-vax stuff. So that is an issue. So I don't know. Maybe pick the stuff that he's. But I'm looking here, like, where is the right? He said, "Cry more, Martin. Appreciate it." I just don't see like the anti-vax thing. Yeah, this I get, like, but the thing is, this isn't something that will get my channel in trouble, right? So I'm not so concerned about it, even though it looks pretty dumb there. Yeah, I mean, I'm watching. How about this? I'm watching. I'm right here. I can see what he's saying. I'm not in the middle of a debate myself, so I don't need to, right? So just like, I'll read them, and if I think that they need to be blocked, let me block them. Okay.
logical argument that I made, and it's absolutely true.
No, you said that it could be a bigger globe if there is something that we can see too far. It could be a bigger globe than we know.
Right. That's a fact.
So therefore, if we have observations of things we can see too far, which there's plenty of, you're saying
he's just instructing Sean on logic.
Your answer is that, well, it could be a bigger globe if those were true. And I'm sure you would like to see the evidence of those claims, right? But if one of those claims ever turned out to be true, like what I talked about, being able to see the fullness of the Pikes Peak from Fort Collins, then you would say, well, it must be a bigger globe. You would never concede that maybe it's a flat topographical plane enclosed by firmament.
I've never seen a single example where the globe side says, here's our accurate math. We think this should be visible or should not be visible, that flat earthers then refute. I've never seen a single example of that.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, I mean, that is the generic claim, right? It's, kind of the head in the sand claim of, it's not working. So help me understand this. Is this the time?
I will say we are about 8 minutes over time.
Okay.
But what I think would be a good idea and would be very helpful to myself in light of everything discussed, all the points brought up and interacted with over that roughly 50 minutes, and I think it would help the audience too, not necessarily a closing statement, but a summary of everything discussed in that 40 to 50 minutes, just to kind of land the plane and offer the audience the best possible position and model in light of tonight's debate resolution to analyze. So it was more free-flowing, so we got into multiple different things, which is good, keeps it thorough. So why don't we do 2 to 3 minutes each, and to keep it fair and on the same format, Shawn will give you the last word, therefore Will, why don't we start with you in terms of a summary? And again, 2 to 3 minutes. I'm sure you both will take the full 3 minutes in light of everything discussed so far. So we'll just say 3 minutes. Will, whenever you're ready, go ahead and offer us the summary.
Okay, great. So yeah, very important. You've got to really think about what is said. A lot is said in these debates. You guys didn't prepare like Shawn and I did, and so you have to go back and really listen to what was stated. And so there is no flat Earth map or model that can account for our observations with the final experiment. And it's not just 6. I limited myself to 6 just because we have limited time, but there just isn't. And appealing to a dome doesn't work. The stars in the south are not the same as the stars in the north. A dome doesn't help with flights. A dome doesn't magically create a geographic South Pole. And so appealing to a dome that's never been seen, does not exist, and can't be tested or observed is not a valid answer. So flat Earth is dead. The final experiment is the final nail in the coffin of flat Earth. And my hope is that people can now move on from this, stop wasting their life on something that is just completely factually inaccurate. There's currently a mass exodus from flat Earth because people are finally seeing the truth, thanks in part to the final experiment. I've lost track of how many people have left flat Earth, and they're thanking me. A lot of them have said that they were in a cult and they didn't know it. One of them actually admitted, you got to give him credit for this, that he was a cult leader and didn't even realize it. But they're all thankful. They're no longer wasting their life on this. They're no longer wasting their time on this. They're actually doing things that benefit humanity and benefit the world. And so I think we're going to continue to see the fallout happen and people leaving flat Earth more and more, which I'm super, super thankful for. That was my initial goal in all of this, was to make the world a better place and to preach the truth of God's creation. We know what God created based on the fact that we live here, and we can just look at the earth and we can measure the earth. And so we no longer need to misrepresent God and claim that he created a flat earth, which doesn't exist, claim that he created a dome, which doesn't exist. And we can all learn a little something about our personal biblical interpretations and maybe even look into the Hebrew a little bit more. So thanks everyone for participating tonight.
Will Duffy, thank you very much for that roughly 3-minute summary of your points and position tonight. Shawn, we'll reset the timer, and you also have a 3-minute summary. Go ahead.
Yeah, so tonight we saw the absolute contextual application of the firmament put on screen. We saw the definitions of it put on screen. We saw historical testimony put on screen. And we saw Pastor Will Duffy deny all of it, saying it doesn't exist because it's never been seen. Because he doesn't have the proof he needs to see it.
It hasn't been seen, and
with
yet
that
you
logic,
blind faith believe
he doesn't believe in the resurrection of Christ, or that believers in the audience will be resurrected to eternal life, which is the promise of the covenant that Christ is the first fruits of.
Dirty.
It's historical testimony that validates the resurrection of Christ.
Awful, horrible,
eyewitness testimony that saw the resurrection of Christ that becomes historical testimony to us in eternity.
Not believing
we have
the
eyewitness
firmament
testimony from the prophets of God who see the firmament,
like that pastor,
Christ
disgusting.
At his baptism, the heavens opened.
What an absolute
the Spirit dropped on him like a dove.
You are, Shawn.
Ezekiel sees the firmament. Isaiah, that he would rend the heavens and come down. Enoch sees the firmament.
Garbage human.
Revelation
Shawn.
21.
You're a garbage
John,
human.
the prophet and apostle of Christ. Eyewitness testimony to heaven above, where the Father's throne is, seeing a new heavens and a new earth, firmament roll back like a scroll, New Jerusalem coming down through it. God. The claims of the Bible itself, the historical valid testimony of our heavenly Creator through his prophets to us, which is the basis for our faith and hope for eternal life. All of it hinges on the truthfulness of God's word.
Your very personal interpretation of it, Shawn.
Is accepted in court.
That. Only your interpretation.
And now it's become historical testimony to us as a valid source of information. For our pastor just to say, well, that's not the definition. No one's ever seen it, so it can't be real. That's just lack of faith. And that's all it boils down to. Today, we discussed a whole bunch of interesting topics. We talked about the 24-hour sun, the South Celestial Pole that he wanted to bring up, the 24-hour moon, although he actually didn't address my question about it. We talked about actually how the sun, moon, and stars work, as well as the wind patterns on Earth, and the observable realities match better the scriptures than they do a heliocentric cosmological Big Bang model.
Gosh.
This topic, which is spoken about over 500 times in scripture, about the description from the creator about the shape of the earth that he created, where he placed us, over 500 times in scripture. You think it's important? You think there's some context within those 500 mentions of the firmament? It's very important. So it disheartens me to see our brother so obstinately discredit the scriptures and say they're not what they say they are, so plainly say they are. In the face of not just the plainly worded scriptures, not just the contextual use of the definitions of the firmament in scripture, but also in the face of historical testimony and modern scholarship, he tries to claim, no, it can't be. This is denial. This is what's called cognitive dissonance. I'm going to pray for Will that he comes out of this stupor and believes the plainly worded scriptures, as well as the concepts that maybe he actually can rewind the tape and look at the things I brought forward today, specifically the inverse square law of light, which disproves the heliocentric model pertaining to what they claim about the moon.
No clue, Shawn, about inverse
I put a lot
square
of things
law.
forward today. I hope people will take the time to research them and study them out for yourselves. Read your Bible, believe what it says. I don't know if Donnie's back yet, but that's all for my time.
Okay, Shawn, thank you very much for that summary. Will and Shawn, appreciate you guys being good sports and giving us a solid, energetic, and definitely engaging debate here tonight on the shape of the earth.
Shawn.
Specifically, which model of the shape of the earth best accounts for the evidence. A stimulating back and forth discussion, that's for sure. And we've had enough questions and super chats come in from our awesome audience tonight that could keep us busy until same time next week. Obviously, gentlemen, you guys at some point
that's why I got my super chat in early.
Are going to want to get some sleep for tonight. I know how busy you both are. And so what I did at the beginning of the debate was let the audience know that super chats are bumped to the top for those that want to ensure that their question is going to be asked. But by the 90-minute mark, we already had about 30 questions. So at that point, I notified the audience that if you send in a super chat, it's not at that point going to be guaranteed to be answered, because we got about 45 here. And so what I would recommend, gentlemen, is in light of our comprehensive debate tonight, 30-minute openings, rebuttals, discussions, we can go power rounds for every single question. And that way we can get through as many as possible. And so what we'll do to
that's fine, Donnie.
Okay, cool. But we can still keep to the same format. Like Shawn, let's say it's for you. You get to respond. Will, you can have a quick response. Then Shawn, you get the last word. But we'll just make each one of those segments quick. And again, ahead of time to those in the audience, those that sent in just
judging rightly,
more so nice comments, or especially those that sent in super chats that were attacking any of the debaters or asking something irrelevant or off topic. We're not going to be able to get to those ones, as those rules were laid out a month ago in our debate negotiation. So, okay, let's have some fun. David English, $5 super chat. First question is for you, Shawn. What physical evidence would convince you that the globe model is true?
Nothing.
Always one of these questions. Not much, to be honest, because the scriptures plainly teach a firm and closed reality.
His very specific interpretation, his own Bible, the word of God. I mean, the word of Shawn.
So that's like asking, how many times does a medical doctor have to tell me that there's no resurrection before I disbelieve Christ's resurrection? So I'm going to believe what Scripture plainly tells us, and so I'm going to keep it at that. My faith is in God's word.
Thank you, Shawn. Will, over to you if you had anything you wanted to add.
Yeah, very brief. Scripture never talks about a flat earth or a hemispherical dome.
Thank you, Will. Shawn, last word.
Nope, I thought we were doing power rounds. Sorry.
Okay, yeah. If you guys want just one response each rather than the three, we can do that. Plus, there's certainly a good mix for the both of you, so we'll get plenty of last words, anyways. Mick, Tune Live. Oh, I think that might be.
Yeah, I don't know if you want to read that one out loud.
Yeah, no.
What?
There's a lot here, so apologies ahead of time. I didn't necessarily
Good
read
job
through
being
every
yourself,
single one.
Tune.
But okay, so let's move to the next one then.
Will, how are you friends with that man? Are you discipling him, McToon?
I'm friends with him because he's a great friend.
Are you discipling him in Christ?
We don't have that close of a relationship, so
okay. But he's a good friend, huh?
He's great.
Gentlemen, okay, let's move on. I just work here, so apologies ahead of time if comments come in that are not necessarily appropriate. So, William
100%
Beauregard, now it's for
appropriate.
you, Will Duffy, $5 super chat. Why can Australians see the moon at the same time as Americans? I live in Florida. My friends live in Australia, can see moon while I see sun.
No problem at all.
Yeah, so this is just another example of not understanding the globe model. So if you imagine you've got a sphere here, the Earth, and the moon here, you can both see this moon here, not a problem. You guys need to look for predictions that the globe makes that you think are wrong.
Shawn, anything you want to add?
I would have to do some, to properly answer this, I would have to do some measurements as far as where they're claiming the moon is in the sky above Florida versus where it's being spotted. What did he say? Australia? Australia. Yeah, I just have to do some calculations on. There's too little information to accurately answer this, but it's possible that it could be seen in both models.
Okay, thank you very much. Ruhif, appreciate the super chat. Ruhif clarified later that I think you and him, as in you, Shawn, you guys answered that question in the live chat. So we'll move on to the next one. And
this Ruhif here?
Yeah, it sounds like you said yes. You left a comment on his video on March 19th. And
yeah, I put it in the. If you pull this up real quick, in this is just the, the bravado, the nonsense that we have to deal with here. This is his video that he made on the 19th, and my comment is very, very near the top. So you should just do better diligence and check in your YouTube channel, bro.
I have a really quick thing to say, Shawn. I don't know if it's true, but Ruhif believes you have blocked him from commenting on your channel. He's a very smart guy. I would encourage you to at least hear him out and not block him.
Yeah, I block people on my channel who make false accusations, who curse, and who slander people. So if he earned that block, then he's going to stay blocked.
People slander people, right?
I saw the screenshots. He didn't do any of that.
You don't see the screenshots of the comments that get them blocked, bro. They go away.
We've learned to screenshot comments because flat earthers delete them.
Yep.
Okay.
Screenshot your comments at Flat Earth channels.
I already answered you on your March 19th video, so go rewatch it. Go look in your comments, and I address your bad claims.
I will say to Ruhif, he and we disagree on creation evolution, and we duke it out on that topic frequently. So Ruhif, appreciate you being here and joining this debate and offering a super chat. Okay, so next question here. Well, it's a question asking for one of the debaters' credentials. I'm not sure that's
credentials fallacy. Basically, because I don't have a PhD in physics, I can't ever learn about it later in life and can't talk about it.
He hasn't learned about it. That's true.
But I appreciate you supporting SFT. Keep doing it.
Okay, appreciate the super chat. Let's just move on to the next. We got a lot to get through, so we want to keep to the most relevant questions.
That's what the globe.
Question
I think
for
this is a softball
Will.
question.
$10 super
That's
chat
what the
from
globe
Soul
predicts.
Cal Preston. Thank you, David, for the support. And question: why do photos of the moon taken in the northern hemisphere differ from photos in the southern? The southern moon pics appear upside down compared to the pics taken in the northern hemisphere.
Yeah, this is a really good question. And it's because we live on a globe. That is why people see the moon as upside down in the southern hemisphere as compared to the northern hemisphere. Flat earthers have no answer for this. They try to put like a clock or something on a ceiling and have people standing on opposite sides saying, oh, it looks opposite, but that's a false answer and it's a straw man because they're looking in opposite directions. Someone in the northern hemisphere can look east and someone in the southern hemisphere can both look east and see an upside down moon, which confirms the globe impossible on flat earth.
Thank you, Will. Shawn, anything you want to add?
It's not impossible on a flat earth. It's just that through the observer position, right? If you put a R on your light bulb on the ceiling and you looked at it from one side of the room, then you walked to the other side of the room and turned around, that R is going to look upside down. It's not that difficult.
I predicted that answer and it doesn't work because they both people looking east would see an upside down moon. And in your example, they're looking toward each other in opposite directions.
Yeah, that's not in the question of this. That's just something you've made up on the spot. So we have to test and observe. We have to check your claims.
Go on.
Just like you said. Yeah, anyway, thanks for the question, though.
Okay, thank you very much. This one comes in from Travis Statham, $5 super chat. Appreciate it. Do you both believe that if the Bible is wrong about one thing, let's say the earth, it can never again be trusted to be divine? Bible was written by sinners. Whoever would like to respond, it's a question for the both of you.
I'll go first. We have contradictory manuscripts. So based on just simple logic, if two manuscripts contradict, at least one of them has to be wrong. So my answer is no. If we
So you Basil Problem's comment got blocked.
We have
Basil Problem, you can type it here. You can type it here.
Contradictory manuscripts, and we know one of them is wrong. It doesn't mean that the Bible can't be trusted. The Bible is kind of like our DNA. We have mistakes and coding errors in our DNA, but we're still human. And so despite these problems and issues that happen over time, the Bible is still God's word.
Thank you, Will. Shawn, over to you.
The Bible's not wrong about one thing. And the discrepancies that are amongst different manuscripts.
Remember, when Shawn says the Bible, he means his own personal interpretation of the Bible. That's the word of Shawn.
Manuscripts are not contradictions as far as what it's teaching. It's just a discrepancy as far as what's how things are worded. And various manuscripts, and some parts are, indentations, or certain parts have been damaged over time. It doesn't mean that the story has changed. The story's never changed. The biblical firmament is replete throughout the story and has never been falsified. So I would say that the Bible was not written by sinners. It was inspired by prophets of God, usually priests or prophets.
It's not written by sinners.
They gave us a sure testimony from God, the creator of heaven and earth. Hebrews 1:1. Many portions in many ways. The word was given us through prophets. In these latter days, he's spoken to us through his son. So this is why we have our faith. This is why we put our faith in God and his word is constantly being proven right over and over again, just like in many of the examples that I showed in my opening presentation tonight. Thank you for the question.
Thank you, Shawn. Will, appreciate the responses. Okay, next one is for you, Shawn. Judge Rightly, $10 super chat. Appreciate the support. And here is his question. Earth equals ball or flat, excluded middle. He's got there in brackets. Will gave 6 defeaters that show Earth equals ball. Until you refute them, this debate is over, regardless of how you interpret the Bible. Shawn, feel free to respond to that however you please.
Yeah, sure. Will asked me about his supposed 6 defeaters of the flat Earth, and I answered specifically addressing all 6, 5 of which I covered in my opening, how they're easily shown on an FE model. The other one, which is more of a circumstantial quote-unquote defeater, it's a circumstantial concept where basically the FE community, the biblical cosmological community, would have to start doing Cartesian work, right? Going around and actually measuring things. Now, it's interesting, though, that there is a guy named Hervé Raboni. He's actually a French yacht captain who is a part of the Globe Vendée race, which is yachts that go all across the Atlantic down into the south, and they race around parts of the earth and they come back up. And he's been doing that for 20 years. And
There's my super chat. He was up on screen for a second. Fkatzoid called Lisbeth the village bicycle and said she was the sexual partner for satanic rituals with Will/TFE. Shawn denounced Fkatzoid in panel. He should.
He actually became a flat earther because there's actually a larger exodus from people from the globe than from the FE side, and that there's a larger amount of people coming to the flat Earth. And it's actually this particular captain of this yacht, who's been a mariner for 20 years, is now a flat earther because
deleted from
you hear
there.
this, Will, because he realized the coordinates that he has for his globe map were stretched and out of proportion and were not correct.
Yeah, he did not read my question.
So therefore, the Cartesian work would still need to be done to show proper boundaries between continents and spaces as far as ocean distances, because that's what made him a flat earther, is because he realized as a mariner, as a yacht captain sailing the seven seas, that the distances purported on the globe were not correct. So we have physical testimony of someone that's qualified in the field. And in the future, Abba willing, we'll be able to do some Cartesian work and answer Duffy's sixth claim. But I put forward a whole host of things today that Duffy has no answer for that destroy the globe. So hopefully we can address those at some point.
Thank you, Shawn. Will, the floor is yours.
Awesome. Yeah. So unfortunately, there were no rebuttals to the 6 flat Earth falsifiers that I presented. A dome which doesn't exist and has never been seen cannot account for the 24-hour sun making a wave pattern other than at the South Pole. Same goes for the 24-hour moon. The setting sun to the south of us when we were south of the Tropic of Capricorn has not even been addressed by Shawn. No dome solves that. And there cannot be a geographic South Pole in a dome model or a flat Earth model, so that hasn't been addressed. And a dome doesn't help you with flights. So all of them are still completely valid. Flat Earth is dead.
Okay, thank you, Will and Shawn, for that response. Okay, here's the next one. Comes in from On the Level Narrow Road, $5 super chat. Appreciate the support. This time it's for you, Will Duffy. Shawn is presenting biblical evidence. Would you not agree God's word should give us the best descriptions of God's creation?
Yes, of course.
Whether your position on the Bible, doesn't matter. It's not biblical evidence. It's biblical claims.
It does, but it never mentions a hemispherical dome. It never mentions a flat Earth. And we have to realize that when we're talking about the past, that is very, very different from today. For example, I believe that the Bible actually describes Pangea, which is where there's only one landmass on Earth, and it's not all separated and spread apart like we see it today. So the creation that God created back in Genesis is very different than the one that we see today. And because we can look at the Earth, measure it, test it, and explore it, we know exactly what it is today, and we can't have that wrong, or our interpretations of Scripture will be wrong.
Thank you, Will. Shawn, floor is yours. Go ahead.
Thanks on the level narrow road. Thanks for the question. Good question. And yeah, in the same way that we do believe God's word gives us the best description of creation, and we don't straw man God's word like our opponent Will tonight is doing by saying things like, well, the Bible doesn't mention hemisphere or flat Earth. The Bible doesn't mention the actual words ocular regeneration, yet we see God healing someone's eye. Okay, putting some mud in it, spitting it. That's okay. Awesome. It got healed.
Wow.
Right.
That's
but it
straw
doesn't use
grass.
the word ocular regeneration. That's the straw man fallacy he's using this whole night. Speaking of the actual Earth and the shores, I mean, it literally talks in Isaiah 66, 17-23 about the distant coastlands of the Earth. It talks about the great seas. It talks about seas in between land masses. And actually, if you read Jubilees chapter 2, it specifically describes 6 parts.
Jubilees is also not part of the Bible generally.
Parts of the earth that are encompassed by waters, and there are rivers that go through the mountains and streams, and the rivers that go through the land masses. So yes, we have an ancient historical testimony from ancient Israelite literature that definitely describes the earth we live on today as a circle of earth enclosed by a firmament. Good question.
Thank you, Shawn. Okay, we'll move on to the next question. One God is now here, $5 super chat. Appreciate the support. Question for you, Shawn. Why did you choose to strawman Will with Big Bang Theory in your opening statement when you know Will is a proponent of intelligent design?
If I did know that, I forgot that. Did you tell me that at some point, Will?
Well, I've never claimed to be
Exactly.
a proponent of the Big Bang, so I don't know why you'd act like I
but
am.
But in all of our conversations and none of your videos did I ever hear you say that you're a proponent of intelligent design. So with that
Doesn't
said,
matter.
you have to take, though, the concept of the heliocentric sun and moon and stars and how they rotate and how they move according to the globe that you purport, according to the movements of the luminaries working with the globe that you purport and that you're defending. So that's a heliocentric model that's comprised of concepts within a Big Bang.
I don't see the relation.
Okay, you keep studying cosmology, brother.
The Big Bang has tons of problems.
You're so smart. Shawn, you're so smart.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen. We'll move to the next one. Nathan Larson, $10 super chat. Not sure who the question's for. It's not specifying anybody. We'll read it, work through it together, and figure that out. Globe-believing scholars such as Michael Heiser state that the Old Testament worldview is flat Earth. Regardless of the shape of the Earth, is Duffy's hermeneutic flawed with 21st century prejudice? So it does look like it's towards you, Will. Therefore, go ahead. Feel free to answer.
Sure. I would say that Michael Heiser is a scholar. Scholars disagree, and so you have to determine who you think is right. We have to be careful not to have an appeal to authority, which is a fallacy. And so I really do like Dr. David Weisskopf's challenge, which is to find any Jewish writing that states that rakia means a glass dome, a hemispherical dome, or that the Earth is flat. And I don't think anybody's going to.
So Icy Spin says, what he's saying is the default position is a straw man. Yeah, that's what he's doing. It's a dirty trick because Shawn knows the audience is primarily YEC, and he's trying to leverage the YEC of the audience against Will's globe position by equating globe with Big Bang, right? You see what he's doing there, right? I hope you all see that, right? We can all take a step away from the whether or not you agree with YEC or not, right? We can step away from that and see what disgusting deception Shawn is trying to do there, and how he's trying to manipulate the audience with what he's doing. It's dirty. It's dirty what he's doing. It's pure manipulation. It is, call it what you will. All sorts of psychological words for it.
Going to be able to provide that.
Thank you, Will. Shawn, over to you.
Yeah, I provided that earlier with Josephus, particularly the Jews book 1, specifically talking about this earth being encompassed with a crystalline firmament. So whomever you're citing, he's out to lunch. He just doesn't know what he's talking about. He's historically contradictory to his own people's statements throughout history. So Michael Heiser, much respect for them. May rest in peace. I have excited to see him at the resurrection. And he accurately stated what the scriptures plainly describe and define according to the linguistics. He was clearly a language scholar and PhD. He knew what he was talking about. And then he followed it up with, but we don't believe that because NASA's shown us the truth. So therefore, God was speaking in accommodating language to the ancient Moses and ancient peoples, to Abraham. And we don't have to believe a firmament closed model because we know better now because NASA's shown us the truth. So I disagree with Michael Heiser's conclusion, which he called the doctrine of accommodation. So he did affirm the language specifically says there's a firmament that encloses the earth. Just like all the nations believed in the ancient world. The Hebrews, through the prophets of God, specifically described it. He said that's true. That is what the language says, but he just doesn't believe it because he believes NASA is showing him the truth. So in a strange way, I actually give Dr. Heiser props for being honest. He just didn't want to believe it. So he actually kind of falls. Anyway, I'll stop there. Good question.
Thank you, Shawn. Thank you, Will, for the response. Okay, next one comes in at the question for both. Why don't we start with you, Shawn? That way this time Will can get the last word. Messiah Complex, $10 super chat. Appreciate the support. Do you recognize a link between globe earthers and claiming Jesus changed his father's instruction versus flat earthers and believing the contrary? In brackets, Messiah Complex has Psalm 111, verse 10. A good understanding have all they that do his commandments. Shawn, what are your thoughts?
I'm trying to understand the question, Messiah Complex, so I apologize if I don't answer it the way you want, or do I?
Yeah, this was interesting. Human being. Did you try to bring tune to the Lord? It wasn't quite what he said. Nobody's a good friend, right? So yeah, Shawn was trying to instruct Will that he had that Will needed to be my mentor, my spiritual mentor. Like Will and I, like, we talk, but that's not a relationship. Like I live here in Minnesota. Like I'm covered. Okay. But Shawn's like, trying to say that he needed to do that, to be that relationship with me. Why? Well, that's ridiculous.
Recognize a link between globe earthers and claiming Jesus changed his father's instructions, flat earthers and the contrary. No, there's actually quite a few quote unquote globe earthers who do believe God's commandments are applicable for
This is
discipleship.
sped up,
They just haven't
yes.
come onto the biblical cosmology yet. So I guess in my experience, I don't see the link that you're suggesting.
Trying
Thanks for
to
the
catch
question.
up.
Thank you, Shawn. Will, anything you wanted to add?
Yeah, I don't understand it either, but a verse is coming to mind, which is Hebrews 7:12, which is, for the priesthood being changed, of necessity, there is also a change of the law. So the Bible says by necessity, there needs to be a change in the law.
Okay, thank you, Will. Moving on. I think this is a question for the both of you. William Beauregard, $5 super chat. Appreciate the support. What is in the air longer, projectile from artillery or an airplane? Do pilots account for curve and
They
rotation?
do.
Why don't we start with you, Will, for this one?
Cool. So I don't quite understand the first one. I would say an airplane, if I'm understanding his question. When he asks if pilots account for curve, the planes do. Pilots don't do much in the cockpit. I'm not trying to downplay them, but the planes are just, the technology is just absolutely incredible. And so the planes kind of take over after they take off and before they land. And they absolutely account for curvature. There's a reason that there's no flat Earth pilots, and that's because we don't live on a flat Earth. You can just simply take all the commercial flights that happen every single day. You can look at where they go. You can go take the flights, look out the window, and they all perfectly map to a globe. And none of them make any sense whatsoever on a flat Earth.
Thank you, Will. Shawn, over to you.
Now, Will didn't address the Coriolis part. Coriolis is not as strong as a medium crosswind, and it is accounted for. And the way they account for that is through waypoints. So when they plot the whole Great Circle route, they take there's all these waypoints, which is just all over the surface there in regular positions, and then they'll say, all right, well, this Great Circle route has this series of waypoints along the way. So you aim, you're at one waypoint, you aim for the next one, and then when you get to the next one, you look to where the next one is, and you say, well, what's my heading to get to the next one? Well, it's if you have a strong wind blowing you to the side, when you get to your next waypoint, you actually won't get there. You'll be off a little bit, and so then you adjust for the waypoint, right? You say, well, I need to go this direction a little more. I need to bank a little bit. And so then you follow that. Same for Coriolis, right? So Coriolis is causing the airplane to go a little bit to one side or the other, similar to wind. You don't know which way the wind's going to blow. You do know which way the Coriolis is going to go. Coriolis is stronger closer to the poles. So if you really wanted to, you could, but it's actually not that big of a deal. And of course, you're right. So, but it does do that through the use of waypoints.
Depends on the flight of the airplane. Usually the airplanes in the air longer. The pilots don't account for the curve manually. Let me just back up. So the pilots, for one, there are lots of flat Earth pilots. So why our opponent tonight continues to say this type of rhetoric it's just false. There's lots of pilots that have come out as actual realizing we're on a stationary flat plane. The NASA documents, the military NASA documents I put on screen tonight, show that all their projectiles of missiles and their vehicles, which is their flight vehicles, were tested on assuming the calculations for a flat, non-rotating stationary Earth. So everyone who put together those documents and were a part of those military tests that are pilots, Will Duffy.
For those listening in, those documents specifically say that they give a list of things that they did not include. Wind, changing mass of the airplane, they treat the airplane as a point mass instead of as a non-point mass. Because a plane isn't a point mass. They assume that the wings do not flex. Of course they flex. They also assume that the Earth is flat and that the Earth is stationary. Now, all of these things are not true. There is wind. Wind exists. Wings flex. They give this list of things in there so that the next engineer to come along knows that these things were not accounted for, and they will need to account for it themselves. So the fact that they're listing these things is evidence that these are things that do exist. If they didn't exist, they wouldn't note them.
Does not curve. Also, we have people like Rob Skiba and Bob Nodell, both of whom were pilots. Bob Nodell, a traditional airplane pilot, and Rob Skiba was a helicopter pilot. And they could...
Oh my gosh. Bob Nodell lied about his credentials. He was a single-engine pilot.
Fly without autopilot. So this weird, fallacious reinterpretation that all pilots only use autopilot to fly, and so therefore all these curvature adjustments are automatically made within autopilot, just nonsense. So we have two specifically that I have met personally, named Rob Skiba and Bob Nodell. They're passed on now, but they were both pilots and flat earthers at the same time. So there's a lot of evidence out there.
Can I respond to this, Donnie?
Okay, yeah, let's do this. Will, feel free to respond.
I want to go back and respond to a whole bunch of other questions if we get this.
I'm sorry. This is
Okay,
the only time
we'll
I'm
do
going to
this.
ask.
Let me just make a judgment call here. We'll give you 20 seconds, real quick response. Then we'll throw it to Sean for, unless you don't think this is fair, Sean.
I don't, brother.
Back
I
up
don't.
there yeah, but you're still getting the last word. You'll get 20 seconds. You don't want the last word?
I want to go back to a whole bunch of other
Sean,
questions and
Sean doesn't like it.
get a response.
He's the boss tonight. So let's move on.
If you let me go back to some other questions, I'll gladly let him respond.
Well, you guys can sneak in rebuttals to things said on other questions in questions coming up. So why don't you do that? Try and sneak in some rebuttals, okay?
Mission Operation Para. There you go. That there. Watch this. See this? Ready? Ready? Bye. I don't know why you're talking like that. That's dumb.
Okay, Tim, $5 super chat for Will. Will, if you believe in the global Earth, how do you see that without the heliocentric model?
Sure. So people think that I have to be an expert in all of this stuff, and I don't. And so all I can tell you right now is that there's smart people that believe in heliocentrism, and there's actually really smart people that believe in geocentrism. It's not an issue that I'm that excited about.
They're not that smart.
So I haven't researched it. So I just don't really have an opinion, and that's what I've stated.
Okay, appreciate it. Sean, over to you.
There are geocentrists out there, but even in geocentrism, they argue for all the same physics that the Big Bang cosmology is inherently involved in their whole redshift observation, cosmic microwave background radiation, all the stuff that they claim is also observable phenomenon that somehow
generally
the interpretation of those models. They assume so many of the same mathematical equations and fundamental glue, if you will, that it's a very, very fine line to appeal as a geocentrist and not fall into the actual heliocentric model. As far as the physics and the math involved, and the distances between stars and the inverse square law of light, and all that kind of stuff. So
I don't know how much longer.
It's a contradictory concept.
They have a lot
and we didn't see Will flesh
don't.
out his actual belief. He just presented his 6 concepts about TFE that he thinks are correct, and then we don't really get a lot of background.
I don't know. Do we want to listen to all these? I don't think so. You let me know quick.
Try to show a comprehensive working model from scripture and from observation to show like this is what we observe and this is how the world works. So thanks for your question.
Thank you, Sean. Thank you, Will. Let's move on to the next one. Jason and Caitlin Hooser. $5 super chat. Appreciate the support. Question for Shawn Griffin. How can low pressure weather systems rotate anti-clockwise in the northern hemisphere due to the Coriolis effect if we have a flat Earth?
So
okay, he's gonna parrot something. Will he say electromagnetic wake? Will he talk about a pool where you've got curls that go on either side of it? Things that wouldn't work, like the sun causes this to happen. This is nonsense. Is that what he's gonna say?
The Coriolis effect is not a real thing. It's the different weather patterns that I showed on screen tonight. From Psalm 72 and 1 Enoch 71 about the windows of the firmament, they're called portals that allow in the different wind and weather patterns into our enclosure. That creates different types of winds all throughout both northern and southern areas, what we would consider on a globe, northern and southern hemisphere, but on a topographical plane would be the inner Earth versus the outer perimeters of the Earth. And how the winds are stronger on the outer perimeters. This causes certain types of...
All right, that's too stupid. None of that exists. It's just all based on your presumption that these things exist, but they don't. Oh, so dumb. All right. What a desperate thing. I was unimpressed that he skipped my my super chat. It's relevant because Fkatzoid accused Will of something very specific, and Sean is good buddies with Fkatzoid and just doesn't call him up on it. I don't think so. I don't think that's cool. Karen B's unkept bush says moon phases are like the center of a ferrocell magnet. I'll have mine with ranch, please. Icy Spin says Flurfs are unaware that videos are a lot of photos. Yes, it was good playing that that little clip that of Sean trying to laugh away my evidence, which was a time lapse, just after he had played a time lapse. Sean demanding to know about who did it and how they handled the batteries because it was such a long time lapse when he had just shown a video by somebody he didn't know and didn't understand how the batteries were changed. The dual standard of evidence is gross. Max V says the stream is now quieter than Flurfs after TFE. Yeah, because I had it muted. Max V says, crap, that super chat took too long to send. I know, you missed the window. Plus, it's quite a bit later now. Anyway, the Sun Express says it's not hard. It is not for no reason that we know the growth rate of gypsum crystal with such exquisite detail. 1.4 plus or minus 0.2 times 10 to the negative 5 nanometers per second under ideal conditions. The Nika caves are a thing, and all on their own refute young Earth creationism. Now, I do not know anything about that topic, but it sounds pretty cool. I'll give you that. So what does it mean? Yeah. Gypsum crystals grow at a certain rate, and they're in some certain caves. And based on the very slow rate that they grow, they would need to be growing for a certain long amount of time. Right? I think that's what you're saying. Yep. That sounds like exactly the type of thing that would not work for a young Earth. And I think they're all just rescuing techniques that they come up with. They're like, oh, well, it could have been, it could have, would have, maybe, should have, could have been some other thing. Couldn't it be this? No. Todd's Tech Tales says, is it Shawn's first or second coming? Because it's the word of Shawn. Fletcher Boy says no one could look directly south. Fkatzoid. He earned top left. He really did. He really, truly earned top left. The Sun Express says, of the greatest gifts bestowed upon mankind is that of a large brain and irony. What insult to the divine Potter creationists must be for being so dedicated to disregarding and denying and ignoring both. Sage words. Icy Spin says, my paper is still blank. Just me? Like, he had those 6 points. I took a screenshot of it and wrote them down. And I had them in my notes here. And then like he spent like 25 minutes, 24 minutes talking about his very specific interpretation of the word of Shawn. And only gave himself 6 minutes for the other 5 points. So, yep. Icy Spin says, creators that can woman females are always sus. That can woman female? I don't know what that is. Sir Little Wolf says, wait, who won top left? Fkatzoid won top left. The new top left victor has been crowned. It is Fkatzoid. Janusz Takas says Ian Wersquare was the most enlightened lawmaker. I know nothing of Ian Wersquare. Wersquare? I don't even know how to pronounce that name. Jack Fetter says this guy is an arrogant, cocky D-bag. I read that before, but it's worth reading again. Mr. Svensson has a super chat for 20 Swedish kroners, but no message. It might have been right, like you don't get a quantity where you don't get a message, but thank you very much for that, Mr. Svensson. Or is it Swenson? Is it a W sound? Who would have won if you didn't implement the downvoting, says Eric Burns. He won even though there was downvoting. If you look on the top left page, there's a graph of the over time, and so you can see where the downvoting happened. So yeah, even with the downvoting, he still won. If we had gone longer, if more people had downvoted, well, Dearth came in second, so it would have been the potato humanoid hybrid. So Icy Spin says, translation, no amount of evidence can change my mind. Yeah, that was when asked what evidence would you accept that the Earth is a globe, and yeah, it is a dishonest position to say that there isn't any evidence. That's the thing. So the irony of a super, hyper religious guy who says that, right? It's just a lie. He's being dishonest. Steve Ravel says, OMG, this guy is so self-centered and self-assured. Word salad flows freely without any evidence. How did Will put up with this for so long? Total crap. Yeah, Will is patient. He's so patient. Ian Worse Square is inverse square. Got it. Sean's inverse square thing. Oh, jeez. So bad. So bad. William Foley says you gave out the top left awards too soon. I know Sean. That was a top left there. I mean, he's so confident of himself. And such a douchebag about it. Jack Fetter says, here's my proof. Until it's not convenient. That's the AE map with all the flurfs right now. Like he's like, well, it could be Joe Hanvey's map model. That's the AE map. The whole point of that is put Antarctica on the outside perimeter. That's your deal, Sean. That's your map. If it's a circle with AE with Antarctica on the perimeter, what other map are you talking about? What other map? There's only one map that was described. One map. This one. Got marker leaking through. This is it. Antarctica around the perimeter. That's it. That's the only thing you got. There's nothing else. Nothing else. Mr. Toffee says another destroyed by Will. Yeah, Will's a crushing ball. He's a demolition ball. Wild Lee Coyote says, Toon, we need fallacy bingo cards. Yes, that would be good. So the question is it when they make a claim of a fallacy? And I know there's 25 fallacies, but some of them are a little nuanced. It might need to be a smaller bingo card to actually be something that could get used. Because they don't, not a lot of them do it. You just get a couple people that just go start spouting fallacy words when they don't know what fallacy. They just don't like it. So they're like, oh, that's a all or nothing fallacy, and it's a red herring, and it's a this and it's that. It's a dual thing-a-ding, and it's a snopdopper fallacy. Basil Problem says, great point, MC Toon Live. The Griffin fundamentalist viewpoint refutes the truth of the Bible, given that the earth is not actually flat. And that's the thing. That's the thing. And that was one thing that Robert Schadewald, who's an atheist, that was one of his defeaters for the Bible, he said, he's an atheist, he claimed that the Bible was a flat earth book. That was his claim. Therefore, he declared then that the Bible was wrong because the earth is a globe. You see, and flat earthers just walk into that trap now. They're like, Bible say flat earth. Well, hold on a second. The earth is not flat. So you're arguing for the Bible to be wrong. It's a weird thing. They don't get it. Right? When you confront them with that, you're just saying the Bible's wrong. Then they just go start quoting the Bible again. Like, wait a second. You need to go find evidence to solve this little dilemma that you've put yourself in. John Blue says, saying it's a snopdopper fallacy is a classic snopdopper fallacy. I just made up that word. Otto says, does Sean have huge graticles? It's just let's just throw out this word to confuse people because people don't know what the word means. And then I don't need to actually defend anything. That's what it is. TNN, Obsessed Patriot says, if it weren't for MC, Will, etc., I'd probably be thinking Sean was actually winning this. Baffling. I need a drink. Need some moron go bye-bye juice. Don't go to the bottle to solve problems. Right, Shady? Shifty Eye Shady is here. Stand strong. Shifty, tell us. He has been doing great. I just want to say, Shifty, love you, man. I'm so proud of you. And TNN, I know maybe you're joking, or and if it's not an issue for you or whatever, but I get the humor. And yeah, you escaped. Just be happy you escaped. Otto says punk rock is real and Crew doesn't know what gravity is, and please don't give him his book ever. Crypto Bill 777. I don't care. I really don't care. You go ahead. Do all that. I really don't care. I don't know what your point is. Crypto Bill 777. I don't get it. And it's just funny that you think it's an issue, right? The earth is a globe. It's not going to change. It's not going to change. But I will do this. Because you quoted, you said, what about this Bible verse? Quoted, he said, Job 37:8. Hast thou stretched out the heavens which are strong, and as a molten glass. As a molten glass. Strong as a molten glass. That's a simile. There you go. Real Sickness says Cartesian would work. Cartesian work that will overturn GPS when he gets a chance was my favorite part. Oh yeah, where he's like they're gonna get some biblical cosmologist surveyors. What are they gonna do? Are they gonna just lie about their measurements and get the math wrong? Is that what you want them to do? Hello.
Oh, good night.
Good night. Oh yeah. Come here, donkey. Come here, donkey. Good boy. All right. Love you. If you want to come. A little more. There we go. All right. Love you. Sleep well. All right. I got the doggos in here with me now. But Donkey just stands by the door, looking at it like with his ears up. Crypto Bill, it's a simile. It's figurative language, Crypto Bill. How do you not understand this? Why is this such a challenging topic for you to understand a simile, a figurative language? Why? I'm baffled. I'm just baffled that grown adults can't understand this. Because I have pulled up, this is funny, I've pulled up for hyperliteralists that go on about that, worksheets from on understanding similes, metaphors, hyperbole, and other figurative language. They're fourth grade worksheets. So Crypto Bill, if you need, I can hook you up with the worksheets that can help you identify the difference between different figures of speech. Maybe then you will. I mean, if you just Googled, figure of speech worksheet, you probably could find it, right? An adult that doesn't understand a metaphor or a simile. Embarrassing. Very embarrassing. It's not a, I don't care. Why would I care about the Wikipedia page? That's so dumb. Nerd Pedantic Alert says Cartesian. You keep using that word, Shawn. I do not think it means what you think it means. I've seen flat earthers claim that the latitude longitude is a Cartesian coordinate system. It's not. It's a spherical coordinate system. You can shoehorn it into a polar coordinate system, right? If you really want it, but it's not a Cartesian coordinate system. That you can do a coordinate transform between spherical and Cartesian. That exists. You can do that, but that doesn't change the actual geometry of the underlying object, just because you can address it on different coordinate systems. That's the biggest thing. Like, they don't even understand this kind of simple thing. All right, Jay Donashi says Shawn just misrepresented the Bible for his evidence and has no real evidence. On the other hand, Will Duffy was more like a scientist than a pastor presenting his evidence. Yeah. And it's about going the correct direction. You starting with the conclusion. That's what Shawn did. He started with the conclusion. Right? And not only that, like, he started with the conclusion in how he interpreted the Bible. He only allowed the interpretations that fit his conclusion. And as I posted, and I'll post it again here. And I don't do this because I think this is the right interpretation. I do it to show that you can pick different interpretations to support different positions. And it's not the way to do it. So Amos 9:6 in the Geneva Bible says, he buildeth his spheres in the heaven and hath laid the foundations of his globe of elements in the earth. Right? Well, does that mean that the Bible says that the earth is a globe? No, that's just a translation of it. Other translations say different things. Why would you think that that's the only way? That's silly. Right? I have a whole page on it, right? mc2.net/Bible-globe. Just go to my website, search for Bible. Right? And I have this headline here, intentionally poking at flat earthers. Right? Isaiah 40:22. They love to cite this one. God sits high above the round ball of earth. And they're like, the Bible doesn't say it. Does too. The Message Bible translation is a Bible translation. Right? Or they call it a paraphrasing. Right? Right. And so then what they'll do is then they'll start going after the translation. They'll say, oh, that translation's wrong. Really? You see what I'm saying then too. That's exactly what everybody should be saying. The translation isn't the thing. Okay? Go find the evidence. They don't want to. They don't want to because they started with the conclusion. Crypto Bill. Dude, if you had evidence, you'd just post evidence for the dirt pizza, right? Get the map. What map is there? You got a map? You got a map? Got any other maps there? Maybe check your pockets for a map that works. There's 100,000 commercial flights a day, and they all use the globe. Every one. There's no commercial flight that uses flat Earth map. There's none. Not one. Not a single one. We got Slithery is a member at Newton, has been a member for 25 months. Very nice. Thank you for that. And then Wild Lee Coyote says, Flirps hate the fact that they can't use the Gleason map anymore. So they claim they have a different model, but they never actually provide one. Well, of course they do. It's the classic Mott and Bailey. They will talk at length about the Gleason map. They'll talk about Antarctica being the ring around the perimeter. They'll talk about the North Pole being in the center. They'll talk about the sun and moon doing circles, right? They'll talk about all those things. Those things describe only one map, Gleason, right? But as soon as you're like, well, let's go test that. Wow, I don't have any map. I don't know what map you're talking about. I don't know. That's just a concept. Okay, well, then you need to go away, figure out a map, and then come back. Oh, we don't have any cartographers. You guys have had a head start, and you've had all this money. NASA. We had maps before NASA. A lot of the early cartographers did it as a hobby. Did it out of love. Did it for fun. Not a big budget. You could go do it yourself. Go ask Tanner Stewart. Hey, Tanner, we want to go map. We want to get some Flurf cartographers. But no. Bailey and whom? It's Mott and Bailey. So let's see here. Let me pull up. Coming up right here. We've got the Mott and Bailey fallacy right here. This is on Rational Wiki. Mott and Bailey is a fallacious argument style in combination. Is a combination of bait and switch and equivocation, in which someone switches between a Mott, an easier to defend and sometimes common sense statement, and a Bailey, a harder to defend and more controversial statement. So the Bailey for flat Earth maps would be the Gleason map, and the Mott would be, oh, I don't have a map. I don't have a model. In order to defend a viewpoint, someone will argue the easy to defend position temporarily to ward off critics, while the less defensible position, the Bailey, remains the desired belief, yet is never actually defended. And you saw this on Monday in the debate we did on Monday. They were experts at Mott and Bailey. So the debate I did on Monday, let me get a little bigger here. The debate I did on Monday was a chemtrail debate. And So the MOT, the easier to defend position, is there's geoengineering. Okay, well, the question was, are contrails real? Or chemtrails real? The things that you see with your eyes behind planes, right? The trails behind planes, contrails or chemtrails, which one, right? That's the so the MOT is, oh yeah, well, you know, they admit that there's geoengineering. They do cloud seeding, right? The Bailey is that those things behind the airplanes that you see are chemtrails. That's their Bailey. But they know they can't defend it. They know that they don't have any evidence for what's in them. They know they don't have any evidence for any equipment being installed in airplanes to produce these things. They know they don't have any evidence for any engineering or maintenance documentation for how to maintain these things, right? You can't have something in an aircraft that doesn't get maintained. You'd have to maintain them. So there must be a maintenance guy that has a manual somewhere that's like, okay, well, here's how to fix this so that it works, right? They don't have any documentation of these things being refilled because these are commercial planes, passenger planes. You can look them up. You can say, oh, look, there's one with a contrail that's not going away. Right? So I have a contrail that's not going away. They claim it's not a contrail, it's something else. Okay. So you need to load up the stuff, whatever that stuff is, into the plane. Where's it stored? Who loaded it up when it was on the ground? Because when it was on the ground, there's windows in the airports. You can see them doing the stuff. You can see that they're driving up to it with fuel trucks. Is it in the fuel? Is it in all of the fuel? Okay, super. You should be able to just, find somebody that works there. Get a sample of the fuel. Couldn't you do that? Nothing, right? So they know they can't do any of those things. They have nothing. And so they go for the MOT. The MOT being then the easy to defend one. They even admit. So anyway, so here's the picture here. You've got the MOT being the keep at the top here is the easy one, right? You get attacked, you run up in there, and then you can stay up in there and hide. And then when they leave, you can go, well, we totally defended this outer wall here, even though they got through easily, right? And every time they come and breach the wall, they just run up into the keep, right? That's why it comes from Mott and Bailey, because that's a type of castle. So anyway, that was a long way of addressing that one, wasn't it? Okay. We got Dick Wayne. Hi there, Dick Wayne. He's a flatty that's particularly not very smart. There are many maps used around the base. Never seen a single globe though. But yeah, see, there's the Mott and Bailey again. So what was the what kind of maps were these? Were these projections? Were these maps projections, or were they not projections? Because if the Earth is flat, then you would not ever have a map that's a projection, right? It's just a scale, right? So it's 1 mile equals 1 inch. And it would be the entirety of the Earth would be able to be scaled the same way. You wouldn't have to have any regional maps that don't connect their edges one-to-one with another map. And that's what we get in reality. I got it up on the wall here, right? It would be super simple to make a map if the Earth were flat. It'd just be a regular, you'd use probably a Cartesian, XY, or maybe a polar coordinate system. So anyway, in the keep, yeah, you're hiding in the keep, taking victory laps. Dick Wayne. I don't think Dick Wayne is listening. He just probably is in the chat, just typing away, furiously typing away. Yeah, Dick Wayne, produce your flat Earth map. Put us all to shame. That's all you'd need to do. It was dirty when he was talking about Bob Nodell and Rob Skiba. right? So the thing is, and that's another Mott and Bailey example, right? The Mott being, oh, well, we've got single engine pilots that can only fly, short distances, right? The Bailey being, do you have a long range, multi-engine certified pilot that where their specific thing does require the shape of the Earth to be taken into account? Of course not. What multi-engine certified pilot is a flat earther? Name them. There is none, right? So when saying this, people, when asking about it, yes, there are a couple low end, entry level pilots that are flatties. And because none of what they do necessitates understanding of the shape of the Earth, right? So why would that person need to know the shape of the Earth any different than a fireman would need to? They wouldn't. It doesn't matter. So Jack Fetter says flat Earth cartographer is an oxymoron, like virgin sex worker, or flurf physicist, or gainfully employed Witsit. Oh my gosh. Ronan, no last name, says it's the Vietnam syndrome. Declare victory, then GTFO. Oh yeah. Dick Wayne says, I have spoken with those in ex-military, helicopter and fixed wing, commercial and private. Awesome. Name them. That will get no answer. Multi-engine certified pilot. Name them. And here's the thing. As soon as you ask them, this is the easy thing. You just say, okay, cool. Well, what map do you use to chart your routes? Or what chart to use? Oh, we use the Lambert conformal conic projection. Oh, oops. That's a globe. So you are a globe pilot, right? If you're a flat Earth pilot, you couldn't use a globe map though, right? This map on the wall here, you can't quite see it. Hold on. I'll get a different view for you. There it is. There it is. You see it? These are globe charts. So if you're a flat Earth pilot and you use globe charts, you're not actually a flat Earth pilot. To be a flat Earth pilot, you could not use the globe. You'd have to use flat Earth. But anyway, I'd love to hear, Dick Wayne, the names of these people. Oh, they'd get fired if they were awesome. Fine. A retired multi-engine certified pilot, right? So they can't get fired anymore. Maybe you got that, right? And I'd love to interview them, right? I'm not Wolfie 6020, right? I would love to have them on. But certainly they would happily talk to Wolfie 6020, right? But me, if maybe they could warm up with me, and I'll just be super nice. They'll totally get it. Yeah, they'll totally nail it. Why is that important? Because you're just making a claim. That which is asserted without evidence is dismissed without evidence. That's why it's important, Dick Wayne. You're just a known stalker. How do you know? What do you mean I'm a stalker? Who did I stalk? I go after people that cross the line. Right? When Fkatzoid starts making claims about people that has nothing to do with the shape of the Earth, it's not about the shape of the Earth anymore. Dick Wayne. So if they start making it about something other than the shape of the Earth, then it's about something other than the shape of the Earth. So if they're happy to come forward because they're such brave, bold, knowledgeable people and they want this truth to get out there, they would certainly want to do that. But no, every single time, name the pilot. No, I don't know. Nope, can't name him. There you go. The George said, my niece got removed from algebra class for repeatedly smacking her desk with a warhammer. It was a weapon of math disruption. That's pretty bad. Pretty bad. Anyway, yeah, so thank you very much, Dick Wayne, for lying about it. If there were, you would name them. But I can name pilots that know the Earth is a globe. Wolfie 6020. Anyway. tomorrow night. Tomorrow night I will be starting at 10 p.m. and I will be doing TikTok. I'll be going on TikTok. I have a little better setup than last time, and I'll just give you a little taste. So thank you to Darkstar 4400 because he insisted that I get these microphones. I spend the right amount of money to get for the trip to Antarctica. So I got these microphones, and it helped a lot. The sound is much better than if it's just on the camera, because it also the camera also records its audio, and so I have the audio for the camera and these microphones, and the microphones are much better. All right, so here's the cool thing. So there's multi-parts in here. Oh my gosh. We've got 2 microphones and the receiver. And so this receiver here can sit on a camera. So it's got a little, you see that right there? You see the little mount there? That'll go on the top of a camera. And then it's got a microphone and it's a little hard to see, microphone and a speaker or headphone plug there, right? And so you can then plug that in to have so that the camera can receive the audio from this, right? Now the camera I had had Bluetooth, and so it talked to them directly. It didn't need it. But here's the cool thing. This has a little thing you can add in, and in here is a USB-C and a lightning plug. So I grabbed the lightning plug. This is just awesome. I tested this out. You grab the lightning plug. Dropped it. All right. It slides in. There's these contact points on here. It slides in and then goes in the phone. This is so cool. And so now the Bluetooth mic talks to this wirelessly. This I can plug in USB-C so it charges my phone. And I can get the earbuds on it. So I got the microphone, I got the earbuds. I'm all covered. So if you were there last 2 weeks ago, I had some, it didn't quite work right. I had some challenges. Anyway, I also have a better stand for my phone. So it's down on the floor. I clamp it to the desk. So I'm ready. I didn't like how I was a little clumsy last time, so I'm hoping that's going to be better. And I've told the couple people that like insisted that they come back, like they think that they're going to come back, right? I'm like, okay, that's fine. We can come back. But you're going to need to be on camera. So Rhonda, if you remember her last week, she was as crazy as a box of 12 screaming weasels. Starving, crazed weasels. I asked today, I just like, if you're going to come on, you got to be on camera. Okay. So Jay Donashi says, take my word for it. We have a working FE model. Sure you do. Sure you do. Yeah. Absolutely. You bet. You bet, Dick Wayne. The community is weak. You people can't hurt me. I have been called worse by better people. I can insult you more than you can insult me. Plus, I can laugh at myself more than you can laugh at me. Oh, that's good. You've got thick skin. Glad you do. Glad you got thick skin. Yep. Hey, Gary IW. Me too. Rodney. There you go. Gary IW. Me too. Can name a globe pilot. Me too. Rodney. Englado, pilot for Qantas, flew 747, 757s, and A380s. He was my father-in-law. There you go. But now, Dick Wayne, do you have any evidence, though? Can you name them? Of course you can't. So be result. I think if Rhonda is who she says that she is, she doesn't look at all like Roseanne Barr. She's the other end. She's like scrawny. So anyway. There it is. I think in honor of both Fkatzoid winning and Will's absolute demolition when I just can't get. I love this one. I love this song. So, but maybe it's better top left Witsit versus Fkatzoid, the rap battle. Witsit came in 4. Fkatzoid was in 1. So anyway, that's what we'll play. That is what we'll play. Anyway, everybody, thank you for coming along. I really appreciate it. We will see you next time.
But what's on? Yo, it's Witsit humbly stepping to the mic. Fkatzoid, let's debate 2025, I'm top left tonight. I was in Antarctica, bro, the truth is undeniable. This is so funny, Ryan, are you moderating this, bro? Electrostatics, yeah, that's the real deal. Relative density, disequilibrium, that's second tier. Admittedly, I'm the champ, my facts stay true. You're like a NASA render, Fkatzoid, fake through and through. Nah, Witsit, your logic's all skewed. Explained it before, just for horse shortened views. You were duped to think you were in Antarctica. Union Glacier staged, it's not the real Antarctica. It's all Unreal Engine, scripted and fake. Let me break it down, here's the physics at stake. If something's denser, it burns energy fast, but takes longer to move. Your theories won't last, and yet it still accelerates at the same base rate. You're optically divergent, but physically convergent. Checkmate, 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 checkmate. Top left, who's the king of the scene? Fkatzoid or Witsit, whose game is supreme? Bass hits heavy, bars sharp and clean. 2025, we're the Dunning-Kruger team. Top left, who's the king of the scene? Fkatzoid or Witsit, whose game is supreme? Bass hits heavy, bars sharp and clean. 2025, we're the Dunning-Kruger team. Bro, you call that science? That's a wild delusion. Every line you spit just deepens your confusion. Admittedly, I don't trust models, it's true. But our model, though not defined in full, is superior. Globe's falsified, bro. You say optically divergent, but physically convergent. Let's discuss moon phases, magnetic cycles emerging like the center of a Ferrocell image. It's etherically displaced through the ether Fkatzoid. Your whole case is erased. Nah, Witsit, this stage is mine. Your nonsense is weak, I'm top left by design. Amplitude? Bruh, hypotenuse is the angle. Those chairs were concrete, your logic's in a tangle. That's a trait in psychology, covering a lie. I totally saw the sunrise, Southwest, don't deny. That's no floodlight, it's the sunrise, it's real. Your charade's exposed, there's nothing left to conceal. And for the record, I never denied the South Celestial Pole. I just said there's no actual South Celestial Pole. Top left, who's the king of the scene? Fkatzoid or Witsit, whose game is supreme? Bass hits heavy, bars sharp and clean. 2025, we're the Dunning-Kruger team. Top left, who's the king of the scene? Fkatzoid or Witsit, whose game is supreme? Bass hits heavy, bars sharp and clean. 2025, we're the Dunning-Kruger team. In 25, who's taking the crown? Witsit or Fkatzoid, we're breaking it down. Dunning-Kruger legends, we're lighting the way. No facts, just the hype, cause we're here to stay. And y'all, we're breaking it down. Dunning-Kruger legends, lighting the way. No facts, just the hype, cause we're here to stay.